681. Iron Forest Quest. After coming out of the consciousness space, it was already the next morning. Still no progress. Ten Tails is still unwilling to accept Naruto, and always threatens to replace him, so that he will not have a better life. Naruto really has nothing to do. Although his spiritual power has made great progress in the process of meditation, the magic power that can be controlled has increased exponentially, but compared with Ten Tails' spiritual energy accumulated for thousands of years, it still looks weak. If it weren't for the fact that Ten Tails was sealed in Naruto's body, with the restrictions of the seal, Naruto would never be able to compete with him. Therefore, at present, when there is no good way, he can only wait for an opportunity to make his strength rise again. This opportunity is the oppression of the strong. After taking a shower, as soon as Naruto went out, Urza stood at the door with a craftsman. Naruto, I'm sorry, it was already night when I returned from my mission yesterday, and I just found someone to fix it for you today. Urza said apologetically. Naruto shook his head. It doesn't matter, since that's the case, let's come in first. Urza smiled slightly. So the two spent another half-day waiting for the craftsman to fix the bathroom. It was not until noon, after eating, that we went to the guild together. Along the way, Urza tells Naruto something. She said that she met people from the Iron Forest of the Dark Guild, and they seem to be conspiring something. Naruto, I think this matter is very strange. I originally wanted to investigate it by myself, but the other party must have been alert now. It would be more troublesome for me to deal with an entire union. Naruto, I can only you are invited. Come with me to complete this mission. Arriving at the gate of the guild, Urza solemnly said to him. Naruto nodded. Since it's your invitation, of course I'm going to see it. Urza heard the words, a reassuring smile appeared on her face. Sure enough, Naruto still cared about himself very much, and as soon as he invited him, he agreed immediately. Speaking of which, Urza felt a little uncomfortable after hearing that Naruto had been standing closer to Lucy these 2 days. At this moment, Lucy, who had heard something, suddenly came over and exclaimed, Urza, Naruto, are you two actually going to form a team together? What kind of mission is so dangerous? You want two S-class mages to execute together. When Lucy shouted like this, everyone in the guild heard it, and everyone immediately exclaimed. Did Urza actually invite Naruto to do the quest together? This is really rare. Nonsense, Naruto is not in the guild all the year round, of course the chance of such a thing happening is very small. But, didn't Urza always do tasks by herself in the past? No matter how difficult the task is, she can complete it well by herself. In that case, it seems that this task is really very difficult. The voices of the crowd continued to ring out. If Urza and Naruto form a team together, wouldn't they be invincible? Someone suddenly called out. Of course, Urza is the strongest mage in our guild. Che, I'm talking about Naruto. He is the strongest young generation in our union. He was on par with Gilda's 6 years ago. Now his strength is estimated to have surpassed that of the guild leader. The woman screamed, Naruto-sama, please show your great strength. Naruto and Urza looked at each other, shook their heads helplessly and smiled. Okay, since that's the case, I'll go to prepare the salute first, let's set off immediately. Urza clapped her palms and said to Naruto. Well, I'm waiting for you here. Naruto smiled lightly. At this time, Lucy couldn't help but wonder, Naruto, what kind of mission is it? You two are actually asked to go together. It's about the Dark Guild. Lucy, are you going too? Naruto said suddenly. I won't go, it sounds so scary. Lucy hurriedly took a few steps back. That's fine, I won't force you. Naruto waved his hand. It seems to be despised. Lucy was immediately hit. After a while, Elsa appeared at the entrance of the guild with a big cart salute and called Naruto. Naruto responded and left the guild. On the train, Naruto and Urza sat opposite each other. Next to Urza, a blonde girl was sitting with her head lowered. Lucy, why are you here too? Naruto looked at her speechlessly and said. Ah, I want to join the mission too. But weren't you scared before? Besides, we didn't seem to invite you to participate, did we? Lucy was struck by lightning, and was hit hard by Naruto's words, and she almost cried. She has been scolding in her heart for a long time, bastard Naruto. Sure enough, he is a guy who cares about sex and friends. With Urza forming a team, he will no longer pay attention to himself. Hateful, hateful, hateful. Nasty guy. She pouted silently, a look of grievance and dissatisfaction on her face. At this time, Urza said, Naruto, since Lucy is also involved, we have to assign tasks. Mission. Lucy was taken aback. Urza nodded, looked at her and said, because my opponent is an entire guild, we have to divide our work and cooperate. I do, Naruto replied. Of course he has heard the name of the Dark Guild, but Naruto did not take it to heart. In his opinion, the guys in these guilds are equivalent to the existence of the underworld, and there may be some powerful guys among them. However, the darkness of the Iron Forest guilds are not very famous. So he didn't care. If that's the case, then you will be the captain of this operation. Naruto, do you have any opinions? Urza said. Yeah, but the task assignment is still free. We'll just act together when the time comes. Naruto said lightly. That's not good. We don't know the other party's purpose yet, so we can't rush into the grass and startle the snake. If they find us, it will be very detrimental to our actions. Urza shouted. Okay, then you can arrange it. Aren't you the captain? Naruto. 682. In the carriage. In the end, it was Urza who assigned the task. Several people decided to investigate first. After investigating the truth, Naruto and Urza would clean up the main personnel, and Lucy would deal with the little ones. Naruto expressed no objection to this result. Anyway, this mission was just to play with Urza for him. Lucy certainly had no right to object. The three moved forward with the train. Because the president is holding an alliance meeting, our mission must be successful this time, and we must not lose face to the guild. Urza instructed again. Lucy nodded firmly when she heard it, but she felt a little drum in her heart. Although she was with two powerful teammates, her own strength was so poor that she could easily be dragged back. At this moment, Naruto suddenly frowned. What's the matter? Urza couldn't help asking when she noticed his strangeness. There seems to be a special kind of magic on this train. Huh, why didn't I feel it? Elsa was taken aback, then turned to ask Lucy, how about you? Lucy also shook her head, neither did I. There is indeed something on this train, my perception is not wrong. Naruto said. Really, let's go take a look then. Urza stood up. Since it was Naruto, of course she believed it unconditionally. And Naruto's strength is also deeply admired, even Urza can't see his depth, so since he said that there is an abnormal situation, there is absolutely nothing wrong. Naruto also stood up and walked all the way in the direction of the induction. However, at this moment, the train suddenly stopped, and Urza was taken aback. It's at the station. We should get off the train. But what about that unusual magic? Lucy cried. Let's get out of the car first, or the task is more important. You go to track down the whereabouts of the Iron Forest first, and I will come and turn with you after I figure out this special magic power. Well, we can only do this first. Urza nodded and got out of the car with Lucy. Naruto continued to stay in the car, and as the train started again, he followed the direction he was sensing. It's in the car in front. Naruto opened the door of the carriage and walked in. Almost instantly, he locked the thing that exuded magic power, a flute. It's a skull flute with 3 eyes. Is this thing? Naruto frowned. The flute was hanging on a young man's waist. When Naruto looked at it with sharp eyes, he seemed to see the skeleton head on the flute showing a fearful expression. Is this guy alive? Naruto was puzzled. At this time, a group of people in the carriage noticed Naruto. Who is this guy? Is this carriage covered by us? Who are you? Who allowed you to come in casually? Get out of here for me. These ferocious-looking men yelled at Naruto. The man with the flute stretched out his hand and hid the flute behind him. However, in the next moment, Naruto noticed the guild seal on these people. It was the Iron Forest Guild. A smile appeared on his face, and he murmured, "What a coincidence, I didn't expect to find the target so quickly." "Hey, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you go away? What are you mumbling about there?" When everyone in the carriage saw that Naruto was not afraid, but was still laughing, they were immediately furious. Who are they? They are the Iron Forest, the Dark Guild. The existence of the wizards who will be dismayed when they hear it. What's the matter with this blonde boy? He didn't seem to be afraid at all. They looked at each other with cruel smiles on their faces. Looks like someone wants to have some fun. Naruto was expressionless, watching this group of people gather around, as if he still didn't know his identity, and couldn't help feeling a little sympathetic. However, before dealing with these guys, Urza and Lucy seemed to be destined to gain nothing, and they solved these guys here at once. Wouldn't they have nothing to do? This task is meaningless. No way, since they were met by themselves, they can only blame them for bad luck. Seeing a group of people approaching him and smashing them with all kinds of weapons in their hands, the corners of his mouth couldn't help showing a trace of contempt. Find a fight. A big man slashed at Naruto's feet with a giant axe. Naruto lifted his feet slightly, let the giant axe slash, and stepped on it lightly, instantly stepping on the giant axe firmly under his feet. Let the opponent exert force, but not move at all. At this time, someone else knocked with a stick from behind, and the target was Naruto's head. Naruto's body did not dodge, his head tilted slightly, and with a bang, the stick fell on Naruto's shoulder, but he remained motionless and did not respond. This guy. Until then, these people finally knew Naruto's strength, and everyone's attacks had no effect on him. The next moment, when the guys who surrounded Naruto were shocked, they didn't see any movement from Naruto. They only felt the air in front of them shook violently, and then an incomparably strong wave of air shook them. Hit hard and fly out. Bang bang bang. After a few bangs, the guys who had surrounded Naruto slammed into the carriage and fainted. Okay, so strong. Yingshan, who was holding the flute, was startled and couldn't help but take a step back. Give me that flute. Naruto stepped forward and said. No, no. Yingshan hurriedly shook his head. You, who are you? Naruto was stunned. Don't you know me? He lifted the sleeves of the imperial robe, revealing the distinctive Fairy Tail Guild crest on his forearm, and said with a faint smile, I am the Wizard of Fairy Tail, and this mission is with you Iron Forest. About it. What? Damn, Fairy Tail, do you know anything? Kageyama panicked. Although I don't know very well, I am very interested in your flute. If you bring it to play with me, I will let you go. 683. You are almost like her. Come on, what are you kidding? Yingshan stepped back and said, this is our most important prop, how can we give it to you? Oh, so, does this flute really have a secret? Naruto laughed. Oops, missed the point. Kageyama was taken aback. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the flute in his hand suddenly flew out of the car window, and at the same time a figure flashed by. Naruto frowned slightly. The guy from outside stole the flute. King Shan, hold this guy. Came the other party's voice. Yes, yes. Yingshan responded tremblingly. He waved his hands, and suddenly a shadow on the floor suddenly struck. It's actually a technique for manipulating shadows. Naruto was slightly interested. However, now is not the time to entangle with you. The guys outside are a bit arrogant. With a dodge, Naruto easily avoided Kageyama's attack, and in the next instant he appeared by the window behind Kageyama, and jumped out of the fast-moving train. At the same time, Naruto's back was spread with a wind wing, and he suddenly flew up. When he came out of the carriage, Naruto saw that guy, who was flying in front of him, holding a flute in his hand. When he saw Naruto also fly out, he was obviously a little surprised. Hey, it's actually the same wind magic as me. Elagor the Death God laughed. At this moment, a magic four-wheeled vehicle was chasing frantically at the back next to the train. Cut, are these two guys catching up too? He pouted, waved his arm, and the magic of the wind was used, and suddenly a violent whirlwind slammed next to the magic four-wheeled vehicle. Damn, that guy suddenly launched an attack. It was Urza and Lucy who were on the magic four-wheeled vehicle. It turned out that the two of them had found the figure of Elagor the Death God after getting out of the car, and they drove all the way. The enchanted four-wheeler has arrived here. Elsa was in control of the car, and there was no way to avoid the opponent's magic. Lucy, who was sitting on it, panicked for a while, and had no countermeasures. As a result, the two's car was directly bombarded by the strong wind, and Urza pulled Lucy over and threw herself out of the car. But because they were galloping, the two could not land safely at all. Moreover, the gust of wind actually swept the two of them into the air. Just as Urza was about to change her outfit to deal with it, Naruto flew over from the front. What? It's Naruto. Slightly stunned, Urza and Lucy slammed into Naruto at once. Naruto held them in his arms and stopped them from falling. When he looked up again, Elagor had already flown away. And the train rushed forward. Why are you here? Naruto asked silently. If it weren't for these two girls, how could that man escape Naruto's pursuit? We are chasing that flying guy. He seems to be the ace of the Iron Forest, Elagor the Death God. Urza said. Well, I also met the guys from the Iron Forest on the train just now. They are all in one group. If you didn't show up, I could have killed them all. Naruto shook his head and sighed. Sorry, did we cause trouble? Urza showed an embarrassed look on her face. At this moment, Lucy's voice suddenly sounded. Hey, Naruto, although we have caused you trouble, let us go first. By the way, when will you touch your hand? When Naruto heard the words, he looked down and saw that when he was holding Urza and Lucy, both hands were on each other's chest. Just happened to be touched by his own palm. Naruto couldn't help but stunned. The next moment he hurriedly landed on the ground and let go of the two of them. Lucy stood aside with a slight face Yuhi, and muttered, I knew I was wearing armor too. Elsa is staring at Naruto with anger in her eyes. This guy can't be intentional. Do you even have to take advantage of a girl to save someone? Hateful. Something is coming to you. Acting on Lucy in front of him. Surely this guy can't be trusted. It was already so lustful when I was a child, and now it should be more excessive. If I knew earlier, Lucy wouldn't be allowed to follow. Urza thought angrily. Cough cough. Naruto coughed lightly, eased his embarrassment, and said solemnly, let's go after the Iron Forest guy first. Oh, only then did the two women react, and Urza couldn't help scolding herself for being stupid. Why did she suddenly lose the ability and calmness she used to perform tasks when she encountered a sensitive matter related to Naruto? The breath of that flying guy has disappeared. Let's go after the train. There are people in the Iron Forest, just catch them. Naruto said. Yeah, Lucy nodded. Elsa hurried to pick up the magic quadricycle. Let's continue to chase. Do you still need to use this now? I'll just fly over there. Naruto looked at Urza speechlessly. But, can you take us both alone? This will deplete your magic power. Urza said worriedly. This level of consumption is not a problem. Naruto waved his hands and put his arms around the two women's waists, smiling faintly, ready to take off. What? The two women couldn't help but let out a light cry, not because of the sudden takeoff, but because of the scalding temperature from Naruto's big hand on his waist, making them both face Yuhi's heartbeat. Hateful. This guy Naruto is still the same as before, he does whatever he says, and there is no room for excuses. Urza looked at him angrily. Lucy hugged Naruto's arm tightly and shouted, Naruto, please don't fly so high. If you fall, you will die. She struggled slightly, her soft chest squeezed Naruto's hand tightly, warm and smooth, and Naruto's hand was really hot. Okay, can you stop moving? Otherwise, I might really have to let go. Naruto said quickly. Doesn't she know that when she moves around, it will increase the friction between the two? This is a very difficult existence for me to resist. When Lucy heard this, she immediately stopped moving. Naruto's wings of wind whistled, and the figure quickly chased in the direction of the train. By the way, Urza, will your armor bring a burden to Naruto? After being held by Naruto for a while, Lucy suddenly asked Urza. My armor isn't that heavy. Urza glanced at her and said, in terms of burden, Lucy, your figure is the one that burdens Naruto. Urza said, looking at Lucy's chest. Lucy's face suddenly turned into a big yuhi. Hate, Urza, why are you so ugly? Am I expounding the facts? Urza said, with a bit of envy in her tone when she said this. When Naruto heard the conversation between the two women, he couldn't help being a little bit unbearable. They were so presumptuous, didn't he know that this young man was beside him? However, Lucy's breasts are very big, which I can see at a glance, but although Urza has been wearing armor all the time, she was seen by herself last night at her own house, and it is no worse than Lucy's. Thinking of this, Naruto couldn't help but interject, Elsa, you and Lucy are similar. 684. In Pursuit. As soon as Naruto said these words, Urza Yuhi immediately turned her face and glared at Naruto. Naruto. If you talk nonsense again, I will be angry. Naruto laughed. Lucy looked at Naruto and Urza suspiciously, and when she saw Urza's face with Yuhi's face, she immediately got up to 8 trigrams and laughed. Naruto, have you seen Ursha's place? Sure enough, you are a big pervert. Lucy. Although Elsa usually looks calm and resolute, she seems very restrained and shy when faced with such a thing, and she can't make a joke at all. As soon as Lucy said, she immediately became embarrassed and angry. Plus it happened to be said, Urza couldn't stand it even more. Lucy stuck out her tongue and finally stopped talking. Urza snorted coldly and stopped talking. Naruto held the two girls in his arms and flew all the way in the air. Under the wings of the wind, his speed was obviously much faster than the train. He quickly caught up with the train, but the train had already driven a certain distance. To the next station. Arriving at the center of the station, Naruto saw the people from the Iron Forest get off the train from high altitude, and then suddenly rushed into the station and drove everyone out. They actually hijacked the station. Everyone panicked. Naruto hurriedly landed on the ground, and Urza took the lead in rushing out to deal with those in the Iron Forest. The battle erupted, and everyone saw the battle, and all screamed and fled. The people in the train station quickly disappeared. All that was left was an empty building, and some soldiers who wanted to get up but didn't dare. Go and solve them. Lucy pulled Naruto's hand and asked him to help Urza kill these Iron Forest guys together. Naruto nodded and rushed up. At this time, Urza had already shot and knocked most of them to the ground. Someone escaped into the station. Urza cried when she saw Naruto rushing up. Just grab these little guys and ask, we'll go directly to the headquarters of Iron Forest. Naruto grabbed a little guy and asked by the collar, tell me your purpose. What are you going to do? I don't know. The little man said tremblingly. If you don't say anything, I'll throw you into the sky and fall to your death. Naruto glared at him. I really don't know. Even if I kill me, I don't know, we are just small characters. Let me come. Seeing that Naruto couldn't ask anything, Urza snatched the man from his hand, and then stretched out her hand and beat him violently. There was a bang, and the guy was already beaten. He became a pig's head and fell to the ground groaning in pain. Ask you again. What are you going to do to be invisible? Urza roared as she stepped on the other's body. Naruto couldn't help but be speechless. He didn't expect Urza to be so violent. The guy collapsed and begged for mercy. I tell you. The three Naruto looked at each other and were slightly overjoyed. To hear the man say, we have received an order to occupy this station, and then let Lord Eligor go to the Union Conference Hall to play the flute, so that all the presidents who are meeting there will die. Play the flute. Let the presidents die. Naruto was stunned. Do you want to use that kind of thing to use some evil magic? Okay, it seems like this. HMPH, that's how it is, I understand. Naruto suddenly turned his head to look at the horizon in the distance, and saw a figure suddenly appear at the top of the station building, laughing loudly. I didn't expect you to catch up here. If that's the case, I'll let you all die here. Sure enough, this guy appeared. Naruto glanced at Urza and Lucy and murmured. You actually came back here. Why didn't you go to the president's place? Naruto looked up at Eligor and smiled. Ha ha ha, if you don't get rid of you here, it will definitely cause me a lot of trouble. Eligor stood at the highest point, looking down at the three Naruto. Really? Then your decision is really stupid enough. Naruto pouted. That's not necessarily true. As long as you play the flute here, you and the people around this station will all die. Isn't this even more wonderful? Eligor waved the sickle in his hand, and the wind blew in the air. Swept toward the three of Naruto. Ice modeling magic ice shield. Naruto waved one hand, and a wall of ice appeared in front of the three in an instant, blocking the violent wind in an instant. However, when the wind dissipated and the three looked up again, they saw that Eligor had long since disappeared. Where did you go? Lucy asked blankly. Naruto frowned. This guy seems to have entered the station. Does he want to play hide and seek with us? Then let's split up and look for it, Urza said, rushing into the station first, and Naruto also rushed in. Huh, wait for me, leave me alone, I'm not safe, Lucy yelled from behind. Naruto turned back. Then you should follow me. Lucy hurried to Naruto as if grabbing a life-saving straw. The three of them were divided into two teams and moved rapidly inside the station. At this time, several mages approached them quietly. Lucy, someone is coming. Naruto suddenly grabbed Lucy who was running forward. With a bang, a fat wizard suddenly emerged from the ground, grabbing his hands into the air, trying to grab Lucy's body. Lucy was startled. Just as he was about to take out the key and use the Protoss magic, Naruto pressed it on the ground with one hand, and an extremely strong ice chill quickly drilled into his body along the ground. The next moment, the fat wizard was immediately frozen into a popsicle, standing in place unable to move. Let's go. Naruto grabbed Lucy, ignored the guy, and went straight to the second floor of the station. Lucy opened her mouth wide. Naruto's strength is really too strong. His own strength is not much better than that guy just now, but he directly killed the opponent. It is simply an existence against the sky. 685. Come out. The two continued to search in the station for a while, and Naruto suddenly frowned and said, something seems to be wrong. Why can't that guy just escape? Is there a trap? Lucy was also slightly surprised. Let's rush to the Alliance conference hall now. As long as we get there and notify the presidents, they can prevent it in advance. Lucy suggested after thinking for a while. Naruto nodded. Although according to these people, if a disciple plays a death song, the person who hears it will be cursed and killed, but Naruto still doesn't believe in such a thing. The root of magic is the use of power. If the human strength is not strong enough, it is impossible to kill the leader-level person. The strength of that god of death, Eligor, is not even an S-rank magician at best. If a mere flute with only a little special magic power can curse and kill the president, this kind of thing really makes that person unbelievable. Therefore, Naruto is not in a hurry now. Now that he knows the whole story of this mission, why not play with them? After a while, Naruto and Lucy returned to the downstairs of the station, ready to leave. At this moment, Elsa came out with a figure in her hand, and when she saw Naruto, she was slightly surprised. It seems that you noticed it too. These guys are not planning to fight us here. Naruto nodded slightly and looked at the guy in her hand. It turned out to be the Shadow Mountain that used to hold the flute, the sorcerer who used shadow magic. Humph. I didn't expect you to realize it so quickly. At this moment, a cold hum sounded from the heads of Naruto and Urza. I saw Eligor, the god of death, flying above the three of them, looking at them with a proud expression. Elsa, the fairy queen, although I really want to fight you, but now I don't have the time. You are troublesome for our mission. He murmured a spell. Suddenly, there was a violent gust of wind around them, and the gust of wind blew in front of the three of them, obscuring their sight in an instant. What kind of magic is this? Lucy shouted in surprise, hiding behind Naruto. The gust of wind whistled and came to Naruto, and was immediately blocked by a wonderful aura, unable to invade even the slightest. Eligor glanced at Naruto, frowned slightly, and disappeared in front of the two in a flash. At this time, the wind finally stopped, but when Urza and Lucy saw the sight of the two of them, they couldn't help but be surprised. We are actually surrounded by the wind. Lucy stepped forward, curious to see what happened. Elsa grabbed her. Dangerous, this magic is not easy. Ha ha ha, you can't get out. This is Eligor's magic, the magic wind wall. This layer of magic wind wall has covered everything here. The purpose is to trap you, ha ha ha. It's a trick. At this moment, Kageyama, who was tied up by Urza and couldn't move, laughed proudly. It's actually the magic wind wall. Urza was slightly surprised. Is this magic powerful? Lucy asked curiously. Urza explained solemnly. In this wind barrier, people can only enter from the outside, but cannot go out from the inside. If you want to forcefully pass through this place, your body will be cut into pieces by the strong wind blade. Really? Naruto couldn't help but smiled slightly, looked at the two and said, is this magic really impossible to break through? In theory, Urza nodded, but she was a little uncertain, because the person standing in front of her was not an ordinary wizard, but Naruto, who had been promoted to an S-rank wizard 6 years ago. With Naruto here, no matter what happened, she would be surprised. Maybe he has a solution. Thinking of this, Urza's eyes lit up slightly, looked at Naruto and asked, Naruto, do you have a solution? Naruto shook his head. Urza could not help but be disappointed. Naruto laughed again. However, this magic wind wall is just magic formed by a large amount of wind magic, right? Since it is magic, there is a limit to its strength, right? What do you mean? Urza couldn't help but stunned. Naruto walked to the wind wall, stretched out his hand, and touched it. Chi-chi. The powerful wind instantly surrounded Naruto's palm, as if it would break his entire hand. The strength of the wind was as if countless wind blades cut Naruto's hand. Hey, Naruto, such reckless behavior is impossible. Come back. Urza couldn't help but shouted in worry. Idiot, just wait to be smashed into pieces. Yingshin laughed. Ah, by the way, Naruto, I have a good idea. At this moment, Lucy suddenly took out a key from her waist. If I ask my Protoss to help, we can easily get out. Naruto turned his head and smiled slightly. It's okay, I'll go out to chase that guy first. Since Lucy, you have a way to get out, you can come over later. After speaking, Naruto's body rushed forward, and the figure suddenly fell into the wind wall. In the wind wall, a spiral barrier of wind formed around Naruto's body, as if it was a hood covering his whole body, and the strong wind in the magic wind wall could not have any effect on him at all. The magic wind wall is nothing more than that. Naruto shook his head. Even the strongest magician in the Iron Forest this time is only at this level. It is really not challenging. The next moment, he had already appeared outside the demon wind wall, looking at the sky not far away. The god of death, Eligor, was flying fast. And Lucy, Urza, and the 3 captured Kageyama who were still inside the magic wind wall were stunned. He actually passed through the magic wind wall. Yingshin turned pale in shock. What a mess. Urza sighed. Lucy said worriedly, he won't have been crushed, has he? Or was he seriously injured? Don't worry, I can feel Naruto's magic outside. Urza smiled slightly. Then, let's go out too, we can't lose to Naruto. Look at me, Protoss, Barago. 686. Underestimate the enemy. When Naruto just used the wings of the wind to chase out, he turned around and saw 4 figures appearing on the edge of the magic wind wall that surrounded the entire station building on the ground. Urza, Lucy, and Kageyama, who was caught, seemed to have a pink-haired girl next to them. Who is this guy? It doesn't seem to have seen it. A trace of doubt flashed through Naruto's heart, but he didn't think about it. It's better to catch up now. This guy named Eligor the Death God is holding a flute in his hand. In fact, Naruto is really looking forward to the effect of the flute playing. Of course, it is only limited to when there is no one around, when he is released by himself. He really wanted to try out a more powerful force. Damn, how did this guy chase him out? Why did he escape from the demon wind wall so quickly? It seems that he made a miscalculation. At this time, Eligor finally found Naruto, who was chasing up from behind. He cursed angrily. Call. After a few minutes, the two who were chasing in the air finally ended, because under the sudden acceleration of Naruto, Eligor was immediately overtaken and stopped in front of Naruto. Naruto stood in the sky, stretched out a pair of invisible wind wings, hugged his chest with both hands, and had a faint smile on his face. Eligor. Let's see where you were running now. Humph. Since you have caught up. Since this is the case, I have to spend some time to kill you. He grinned slightly, showing a cruel smile. Although you fly faster, I have never heard of it. There's a character like you in fairy tale. Naruto was stunned for a moment. It seems that although I have been walking in this world in the past few years, I have not caused any sensational incidents. Everyone has forgotten that I was a 12-year-old who was promoted to an S-rank mage. Even the strongest magician of the Dark Guild doesn't know himself. Compared to Urza and the others, their reputation is really bad. Is it too low-key? Naruto frowned. At this moment, a violent tornado suddenly surged in front of Naruto, and Eligor had launched his first attack on him. Storm Palm. Naruto smiled lightly, waved his arm lightly, and said, "Your magic is the wind element, so I will use the wind element to fight against you." At the same time as he spoke, a violent hurricane surged in front of Naruto. As soon as the hurricane came out, Eligor's tornado was like a gust of breeze, completely incomparable to Naruto's wind force. At the moment of contact between the two, the power of Storm Palm was directly overshadowed by Naruto's hurricane. There is no time for a pause. How is this possible? Eligor couldn't believe his eyes. His wind magic had always been his most proud magic. Even in this magic world, he was able to run amok with his own wind magic. However, now this guy in fairy tale who doesn't even know his name, not only defeated himself in the speed of flight, but was also completely destroyed in strength. This is simply unacceptable. Who the hell are you? Eligor looked at Naruto in shock. Short blonde hair, blue pupils, it seems. I have an impression. Sorry, I don't seem to have reported my name yet. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto smiled lightly. Uzumaki, Naruto, Eligor murmured. Suddenly, the look on his face was startled. You are. He stretched out his fingers, his body subconsciously took a step back, pointed at Naruto and exclaimed, "You are the least appearing S-mage Uzumaki Naruto in fairy tale." Quote. Looks like you know me. Naruto said. If it was 6 years ago, it is estimated that more than half of the people who reported his name would know it, because at that time, he was successfully promoted in the S-rank mage exam that Fairy Tail participated in. The matter has almost made the headlines of the major news bulletins, and even in the Magic Council, it has attracted enough attention. It's just that in the 6 years after that, Naruto went to some deep mountains, old forests or places to do dangerous tasks. Almost no one knew his whereabouts, so it was equivalent to hiding for 6 years, and he almost let him go. Everyone forgot his existence. If it weren't for the fact that he returned to the guild this time, and the mission he did was not in some uninhabited place, it would be impossible for everyone to know him. However, as the strongest magician of the Iron Forest, Eligor still had some research on some important figures of the major guilds, and Naruto, who had forbidden S-rank magicians at the age of 12, listened to him at the time. After saying that, he was shocked. Now that Naruto appeared in front of him, the shock was finally reawakened and turned into a deep fear. S-class wizard. That is a realm that he has not yet reached. Moreover, the guy in front of him already achieved such strength 6 years ago, so how strong is his strength now? Just can't imagine it. Naruto only reported his name, and suddenly saw the fear and retreat in the other's eyes, and then smiled after a slight stun. Eligor, the god of death, you are the strongest magician in the Iron Forest. Are you afraid? Eligor shivered and stepped back. Although he is very strong, he is not a brain-dead character. Don't think about the difference in strength, it is just there. If you don't know how to fight Naruto, you are really courting death. Cut, I won't let you run away. Naruto pouted, looking at the guy who wanted to retreat. Okay, you can leave if you want. Give me that flute, Naruto said again. Eligor was stunned for a moment, his face sank involuntarily. This flute is the most crucial prop in his plan. If he takes it away, all his efforts will be in vain, but if it is not given to him, he will probably lose his life. For a while, he couldn't help but ponder. You can play the flute, Naruto said suddenly. What? Eligor was shocked, thinking he had heard it wrong. What does this guy say? Want to let yourself play the flute? Isn't that why he came after him to stop him? Now, he actually wants to let himself play. What do you mean? Eligor asked cautiously. Naruto smiled lightly and spread his hands. It's not interesting, as you can see, I'm just giving you a chance to try the power of this flute. Are you looking for death? Eligor's face couldn't help revealing a wicked smile. No, I'm looking for a challenge. Haha, then don't regret it. This is the magic prop of Jareth, the black magician. Once someone hears its flute, they will be cursed to death immediately. This is Jareth's magic. No matter how strong you are, you can't resist, ha ha ha. Eligor laughed wildly, scolding Naruto as an idiot in his heart. Jareth, hee, then I really want to try the power of his props. If the power of even one of his props can't be matched, then my practice is really not at home. Naruto's eyes lit up slightly. Even the dragon has been defeated by himself. There is almost no one who is stronger in this world. His goal is only Jareth. Then let you taste the fate of underestimating the enemy. Eligor shouted, stretched out his hand and took out the flute, and put it to his lips excitedly. 687. Boom. Naruto looked at him with a smile. Drops of cold sweat dripped down Eligor's face. Suddenly, a magic four-wheeled vehicle suddenly appeared on the ground below the two of them. The car came quickly, and Urza and Lucy were sitting on it. Naruto, what are you doing? Hurry up and kill that guy. Urza cried out when she saw that Naruto was indifferent to Eligor's flute. Naruto sighed helplessly. I'm so sorry, if they come, I can't let you play. What? Eligor was taken aback. Are you kidding me? Naruto smiled faintly, his figure flashed, and the next moment he suddenly rushed in front of him, stretched his arm, and directly grabbed the flute beside his mouth. Damn, how dare you underestimate my death god Eligor. Eligor was also angry, although Naruto's strength was unfathomable, but this guy actually played with himself like this is intolerable. The next moment, he muttered something in his mouth, and suddenly he was surrounded by a gust of wind. Storm coat. With the use of magic, his figure quickly flew backwards, avoiding Naruto's movements. Is this the armor of the wind? It's interesting. Naruto smiled when he saw his magic. Suddenly, a whirlwind swirled around his body. It was the armor of the wind. However, the wind around Naruto is not an invisible and colorless wind, but a turquoise color, which is the most natural color of the wind. A large amount of natural wind magic is gathered together to form such a color. Eligor was shocked, feeling the incomparably powerful magical momentum in the wind, and was extremely shocked in his heart. However, this is a battle of life and death, and he can't tolerate his fear and carelessness. Seeing that Naruto is so strong, although he wants to retreat, in the case of no retreat, he can only bite the bullet. Emerald speed. Eligor snorted, looking at the oncoming Naruto. Several sharp wind lines suddenly appeared from his fingers, as flexible as a whip, and as sharp as a sharp blade, directly towards Naruto. The man drew over, in a posture of enveloping, and was about to cut him into pieces. This kind of magic is ineffective for me. Naruto didn't even bother to raise his hand, so he just flew over on a rampage. The magical wind blade controlled by Eligor slammed on Naruto's wind armor, but it only made a few chirps, and then it did not cause any damage to Naruto. His magic can't touch Naruto's body at all. Damn, this is my strongest magic. Eligor's face showed a look of despair. He was really about to collapse. Although his strength did not reach S rank, he was already very close. But in front of this guy, even if he tried his best, there was still no effect. This guy is so terrifying. Okay, let me study this and the flute myself. Naruto stretched out his arm, grabbed the void, and a cyan wind rope suddenly extended from his arm, immediately smashing Eligor's body wrapped around. Eligor had no room to dodge at all, and his speed was not at the same level, and he was directly grabbed by Naruto and pulled in front of him. Give me the flute, you'd better go down. Naruto grabbed the flute with one hand, clenched his fist with the other hand, and the doctor smashed him in the face. Boom! A layer of invisible air waves spread out from Naruto's fist, and just looking at it is enough to appreciate the power of it. Eligor's body was blasted out as if it was a fashion, and disappeared directly into the sky. Life and death I don't know. Hey, Naruto, why did you blow him away? We have to catch him and hand it over to the council. At this time, Urza shouted from below. Naruto removed the armor of wind on his body, put away the wings of wind, and slowly landed in front of the two of them. He smiled. It's just a small role, anyway, I have already got the most important things. He raised the flute in his hand and said. Is this the flute they used to curse and kill everyone? Urza jumped off the magic quadricycle and blamed, but you should catch that guy and ask carefully what the flute is. What's the matter? Isn't it enough to take it back and study it slowly? Naruto observed curiously while holding the flute. From this flute, he could feel the special magic that seemed to be constantly flowing. Naruto frowned, and after holding the flute, he could feel the unusual magic in it even more. This is a magic power similar to natural magic power, and this magic power has also been endowed with a kind of consciousness and life. Show me, show me. Lucy jumped over and shouted curiously, pulling Naruto. This is a very dangerous thing. Naruto handed the flute to her. Lucy was startled, she didn't dare to pick it up and stuck her tongue out at him. At this moment, the skull flute in Naruto's hand suddenly shook, and it was released from his hand in an instant. What a bunch of idiots. Do you have to let me come in person? Skullhead Flute suddenly started talking. Dizzy is talking. The three of them were stunned. Lucy hid behind Naruto in fright, grabbing his arm and trembling all over. Sure enough, this flute is really weird. It turns out that there is such a thing lodged in it. Naruto stepped forward and said to the flute, in that case, you are something made by Jareth. Just show me your power. Ah quack. Stupidity, stupidity, I'm going to wipe out all of you idiots. The flute suddenly roared, and a black smoke came out of it. The next moment, the sky was covered with a layer of clouds. Under the clouds, a huge black shadow stood in front of the three of them, like a hill, looking down. Naruto, three people. Strange, weird monster. Lucy opened her mouth wide in fright and hugged Naruto's arm tremblingly. 688. The Power of Jinten Particle Style. Is this the monster that resides in the flute? It looks quite powerful. Urza frowned and said excitedly. Judging from the strange magic power emanating from this monster, it is definitely not an ordinary guy. As expected, it was made by Jareth. Is it over? How can we possibly beat this kind of guy? Lucy couldn't help feeling hopeless. At this moment, Naruto stopped the two girls and said, let me deal with this guy. Hey, Naruto, do you want to deal with this big monster alone? Elsa stopped him and said with some dissatisfaction, Anyway, I have to do my best. Naruto was stunned. Yeah, Naruto, you are very powerful, but this is a monster. Let's work together to deal with it. Lucy also stood up bravely at this time, and said firmly. At this moment, the huge monster suddenly spewed out a strong magic beam. The beam gathered into a group, and bombarded the ground fiercely. Layered skin. The deafening roar and the constantly shaking earth seemed to be about to overturn, so scared that Lucy grabbed Naruto's arm all of a sudden. The strength is very strong, but... Naruto stood on the spot, motionless, looked at the huge monster, and stretched out a finger. The next moment, a strange wave suddenly appeared in the air, and Urza and Lucy couldn't help turning their heads to look at him. On Naruto's fingertips, a fist-sized ball of light suddenly appeared, emitting a soft light, but Urza and Lucy saw it and could clearly feel the powerful power contained in it. What kind of magic is this? Lucy exclaimed. Naruto, you know a lot of magic. Urza also said in surprise. At this moment, the fist-sized ball of light on Naruto's fingertip suddenly turned into a laser-like ray with a swoosh. It instantly crossed a distance of tens of meters and pierced the monster's chest. After the light penetrated the hole, it continued to extend to the distant sky. Roar! The monster roared in pain. It didn't die with the hole in its chest. Instead, it shifted all its hatred to Naruto's location. After seeing where he was, a beam of magic energy gathered again in its mouth. At this time, Naruto suddenly flashed, and the next moment he suddenly appeared in front of the monster. His hands were slightly closed, and then a little further, a square energy barrier glowing white light emerged from his palm. Immediately afterwards, with a wave of his hands, the square energy barrier flew towards the monster's body, and then suddenly expanded to the size of a hill, enclosing the entire monster in an instant. Jinten particle style, split detachment of the primitive world technique. That combines three kinds of attribute changes. It is a powerful ninjutsu that surpasses Kekkei Genkei. The current Naruto has long been able to use the power of the 5 attributes at any time. The Jinten particle style used by him is unimaginably powerful. A burst of intense white light shook Urza and Lucy to the point of being unable to open their eyes. When they looked up to see clearly again, they found that the place where the huge monster was located had become empty and nothing had ever existed. The dark clouds in the sky gradually dissipated, revealing bright rays of sunshine. Monster disappeared. Both Lucy and Urza opened their mouths and stared at Naruto. Naruto spread out his hands. It seems that I'm using too much force, and I've been killed accidentally. Split detachment of the primitive world technique, which is similar to the smashing magic of Gildas, which can instantly separate the target into the same size as the molecule. Although the monster is strong, in front of his Jinten particle style, it can be destroyed instantly. So you're the real monster? Lucy exclaimed dumbfounded. Naruto laughed. Really, Naruto, just leave this task to me. Urza sighed helplessly. This monster looks strong on the outside, but I really didn't expect it to be killed all at once. Naruto touched his nose and smiled bitterly. Really? But what kind of magic did you use just now, Naruto? It doesn't seem to be ice magic, right? I really saw this mission. How much power are you hiding? Urza looked at Naruto, and couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration in her heart. Her strength was one of the best among the younger generation of the guild. Even if it was placed in the entire magic world, he is a very strong expert, but in front of Naruto, he is so powerless. Compared with him, he is really far behind. Okay, the mission is complete, we should go back. The core of this mission is this flute. Now that the flute monster has been destroyed, everything is over. Naruto shook his head and sighed. I thought I could meet a powerful guy, but I didn't expect it to be a monster of this level. Even if it was compared with the Dahliaola I met when I was a child, there was still a gap. When Urza and Lucy heard this, they nodded and followed Naruto out of here. With Naruto participating, the mission did not have any twists and turns, and in front of his overwhelming strength, there was almost no challenge. On the train back, Lucy murmured, why do I feel like I'm not at all adventurous when I'm on a mission with Naruto? Quote. Naruto. Urza smiled slightly. Naruto's strength, I am afraid that he has reached the level of the president. It is really not suitable to do the task with us. Hey, are you pushing me? Naruto shouted helplessly. Hee, how dare we? Naruto, you are my protector now. Lucy smiled and hugged his arm. Lucy. Urza's angry eyes fell on her. Lucy stuck out her tongue, hurriedly let go of Naruto, and muttered, just kidding. Really, Urza is very serious about things related to Naruto. Her head, and a layer of Yuhi dizziness gradually appeared on her face. Seeing Urza's expression, Lucy couldn't help but smile, but she felt a little sour in her heart. Her relationship with Naruto is really good. How enviable. 689. Dating. After returning to the guild, the president and the others just came back from the meeting, because Naruto stopped the curse song halfway, so the presidents didn't notice it. When the three of Naruto came back and told Makarov about the matter, he pondered, the Dark Guild has become more and more frequent recently. Jareth's props and magic are still available. Remains to this day. Quote. After a pause, sitting on the counter, he smiled and praised, but you did a good job. Defeating the guys from the Dark Guild is a great achievement. This is what we should do. Urza nodded slightly. Lucy smiled bitterly and said, I'm not of much use this time. Elsa shook her head. That's not necessarily the case. If it wasn't for the help of your Virgo Baluge, we wouldn't be able to get out of the magic wall. Well, compared to Naruto, it's really not worth mentioning. Lucy glanced at Naruto and said. Urza also agreed. That's true, but he can be counted among non-humans. Naruto couldn't help crying and laughing when he heard it, and suddenly feigned anger. He reached out and patted Urza's buttocks in a knee-length Yuhi-colored short skirt, and said, Alusha, how dare you speak ill of me? Ah! Elsa suddenly let out a crisp and harsh scream, and everyone looked at it in fright. She hurriedly covered her head and lowered her head, and then gave Naruto a vicious look. Naruto. You really are, it's too much. Yuhi on her face, Naruto couldn't help showing a knowing smile. And Lucy snickered on the side. It turns out that she is usually terrifying. Elsa, who is like a queen in everyone's eyes, has absolutely nothing to do in front of Naruto. To be able to subdue Urza, Naruto is really powerful. Lucy looked at Naruto with intense curiosity. In fact, when Naruto and Urza were practicing against each other, they would occasionally joke about it. The two of them would naturally have physical contact. At that time, Urza would suddenly hug Naruto to the extreme. Not letting go, that desperate look had to make Naruto use some extraordinary means. Example, spanking. This is the best way to deal with Urza. Of course, this method only works if Naruto uses it. As for the others, no one can touch her at all, right? After reporting to the president, the three received a bonus from the Magic Council to help them capture the Iron Forest personnel. The bonus was very generous. Of course, these rewards are not very attractive to Naruto, but they are very useful for Urza and Lucy. For example, Urza is given a beautiful armor, and Lucy is also a very good one. Considerable bonus. After the short mission, Lucy felt that the bonus she received was really unworthy of the name, and felt well deserved, because during the mission, she felt that she had nothing to do with herself, so when the bonus was distributed, she pulled it. Naruto used part of it to return it to him, and the remaining part was going to invite him to a meal. When Lucy made this invitation, she paid a lot of attention that there was no Urza around, otherwise the guy would definitely jump over to stop it very sensitively, right? Okay, it just so happens that I'm free these 2 days. Of course, Naruto readily agreed to have free meals. Besides, Lucy is also a big blonde beauty, so eating with beautiful women is a very good thing. So, the next morning, Lucy got up early. Because this is the first time to eat with Naruto in the true sense, she feels that she must dress up properly, otherwise Naruto will definitely feel that she is very casual and insincere, right? For this kind of thinking, she found that she didn't know why. After dressing up beautifully for a while, Lucy went to the agreed place, because it was on the commercial street where Lucy's house was located, and was very close to her house, so she arrived there within a few steps. But she found that Naruto had already arrived. "Hi, Naruto, why are you so early?" Lucy saw Naruto in a royal robe at the door, with a bright smile on his face, bright and pure. Naruto had been waiting here for more than half an hour. He was a little impatient, but when he looked up at Lucy, his eyes suddenly lit up. Her long golden hair was casually draped over her shoulders, with a blue bow tied on top of her head. She applied light makeup on her face, and seemed to have some lip gloss printed on her lips, revealing a charming luster. She blinked her big bright eyes, and called out to Naruto, who was a little ecstatic, "What's wrong? Are you fascinated by the charm of this young lady?" Naruto came back to his senses and curled his lips. "Although it looks like you dressed up today, but I've been waiting here for more than half an hour, and I'm in a mixed mood." Naruto, you are so ungentleman. It's only natural for boys to wait for girls, right? Lucy pulled Naruto into the store angrily. This is a very ordinary breakfast restaurant, but Lucy happily introduced him how delicious the breakfast here is, so Naruto had to order 2 breakfasts along with her. The two sat down. Lucy was inexplicably nervous and excited, and her heart was like a deer. Is this a date? Well, but this seems to be his own invitation to him. Is it too easy for you? No, this shouldn't count as a date. It's bonus sharing. Right, just come and spend the bonus you get. Lucy comforted herself like this. That, Naruto. Lucy lowered her head and whispered, "Can I ask you a question?" Question. Okay, what do you want to know? Naruto nodded and smiled. "I know everything." Well, you seem to be on good terms with Urza. Lucy asked, looking up into his eyes. Yeah, we've known each other since we were kids. I heard her say this. The problem is, there is another thing that everyone in the guild spreads. Miss Mirage seems to like you, right? 690. Misunderstanding. Hearing what he said, Naruto couldn't help but froze for a moment, and then said a little embarrassedly, "Lucy, that was something from when I was a child, it's really hard to say now." Naruto, you're running away. It's not a secret in the guild that Sister Mila likes you. Besides, I heard that she once confessed to you. It's so romantic. If I had to do this kind of thing, I would be ashamed to death. But, Sister Mila doesn't usually see that she is such a brave person. Lucy was there alone, he muttered to himself, and then became intoxicated again. Seeing Lucy's shy and expectant look on her girlish face, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Lucy, why are you asking these questions? It's nothing, it's just 8 trigrams. Lucy came back to her senses, waved her hand, and asked curiously, "But what do you think, Naruto?" It's to accept Sister Mila. Confession. Or do you like to be with Urza? After all, everyone usually thinks that you and Urza are a couple. Quote. This kind of thing, it's too early to say. Lucy, you're not here to talk to me today, are you? Naruto said helplessly. Lucy's question was too sharp, and he really couldn't answer it for a while. Come up. Urza and Mirage each have their own strengths. Urza is heroic but gentle, while Mirage is a little woman's good wife and mother, if you ignore her previous domineering and arrogant character. You're really running away like this. Naruto, this is not right. Lucy found that Naruto didn't seem to want to deal with this kind of thing, and immediately frowned slightly and said angrily, "Flight and erratic man, not a good man." Naruto was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head and laughed. Everyone has a love for beauty. When they see something they like, they will have a feeling of wanting it, even if it is a human being. If he really wants to say it, of course he chooses. Take it all. However, of course, this kind of question cannot be said directly. A girl as innocent and young as Lucy will definitely criticize her for this kind of idea, and her head will be irritated by her. So, Naruto decided not to talk about this kind of thing with her anymore. With a wave of his hand, he shook his head and said with a smile, I think it's better for you to care about your own affairs. Recently, I found out that Loki has been watching you. Rocky, the handsome guy in the guild. Lucy was taken aback. Well, he seems to be very interested in you. Naruto said Guy. Nonsense. I didn't notice anything unusual. Lucy immediately turned Yuhi's face up and defended after hearing this. Also, even if he keeps looking at me, what does it have to do with me? HMPH, it's really inexplicable. Naruto smiled and diverted Lucy's attention successfully. However, it is true that Loki cares more about Lucy. As for why, Naruto really doesn't know, but it is normal for a man to notice a beautiful and lovely girl like Lucy. Moreover, there is no shortage of men in the guild, and almost all the beautiful wizards are liked and admired by men. After Lucy got nervous for a while, she suddenly stared at Naruto with a serious face and said, "By the way, Naruto, why do you care so much about my affairs?" With a wicked smile on her face, could it be that you are attracted by Miss Ben's charm? Naruto raised his hand and hit her on the head. Please don't be so narcissistic. Miss Lucy. Oh, it hurts. With a bang, Lucy's head was hit by Naruto. She covered her head and stared at him with a grieved expression. What a man with no grace at all. Damn it. Naruto laughed. The corners of Lucy's mouth could not help but curl up a little. A familiar voice suddenly came from the door. Naruto, Lucy, so you are here. I'm really looking for it. Urza. Lucy couldn't help but be startled, and when she saw her walking towards this side, she couldn't help but feel tense. Oh no, I seem to have invited Naruto out when Urza was away. Now that she sees herself having breakfast with Naruto, shouldn't she misunderstand? Lucy couldn't help feeling like she was a mistress. It's Urza, come, let's sit down and eat together. Naruto sat there calmly and greeted her directly to sit down. Elsa shook her head. I just ate it, no need. Then what's the matter with me? Naruto asked. Ursha heard the words and glanced at Lucy. Actually, it's fine. I wanted to see you to see my latest armor, but it looks like you're busy, so I won't bother. After Urza finished speaking, she turned and left, leaving only a back. Naruto stayed for a while. Hey, Naruto, go after Urza. She must have misunderstood something. Lucy said quickly. Her face seems a little ugly. When Naruto came back to his senses, he couldn't help screaming badly. She was just out to eat with Lucy alone. Was she jealous? A woman's heart is really hard to fathom. After listening to Lucy's words, Naruto thought about it and smiled. What can I misunderstand? We haven't done anything. Indeed, Naruto just treated it as an ordinary meal and chat, and didn't think much about it. However, a girl's heart is always so sensitive and tender. Even if she pretends to be strong and doesn't care, she is still very sensitive to emotional matters. Just like this time, Naruto used to go to the guild with Urza, and then drink tea and chat with each other, or go to practice. As long as the two meet, they will stay for a long time. But this time Naruto went out to breakfast with Lucy without saying a word. When she came to the guild, she asked everyone to know where Naruto was. Even Urza, who has always been more sensible, would be very concerned about this, right? After all, it's about the man you like. Moreover, when she first entered the breakfast shop, she saw Naruto and Lucy chatting and laughing, and she seemed happier than when she was with herself. 691. Armor of Temptation. Once this sensitive emotion is triggered, Urza will inevitably become jealous. In the past, even if Miragi publicly confronted her face to face, and even confessed to Naruto directly, Urza was only angry for a while, and would not leave in such a silent jealousy. Because she knew that it was Mirage's initiative, Naruto didn't make a statement. And this time, Naruto had breakfast with Lucy alone, which had to be misunderstood. This was a secret date. At this moment, Lucy's face couldn't help showing a look of remorse. If I knew I would be seen by Urza, I wouldn't come out with you. You said that. Why do I feel that the more I talk, the more I think something is going on between us? Naruto couldn't help but be speechless. Oh, anyway, hurry up and chase Urza now. I can't bear if your relationship is bad because of me. Lucy stood up and gave him a hand. Naruto had to get up and leave his seat, although he thought that Urza was not such a stingy girl, but after all, people were really strange just now. It is indeed better to go and see her. That's it, go find her with me. Naruto felt that there was nothing between him and Lucy, so he should go to Urza with her. After all, it's not good to leave Lucy aside. Me? What are you kidding? If I really go, Urza will be even more angry. Lucy couldn't help but hurriedly said, really, don't you understand a girl's heart at all? Urza must be eating my vinegar. Naruto couldn't help but said speechlessly, could it be that you think too much? Are you too narcissistic? You are narcissistic. Hurry up. I don't want to be hated by Urza because of you. Then my end will be very miserable. Don't hurt me, Lucy tweeted as he left the gate. He forced him to leave. Naruto had no choice but to say goodbye to her and go to Urza. Why is this a bit like a dog-blooded love triangle? Along the way, Naruto thought to himself. By a small river, Naruto saw the familiar figure sitting on the beach, quietly, as if blending in with the surrounding environment. Yuhi color, the armor that glows with metallic luster in the sun, and the face with beautiful lines, all of which are like paintings. It was Urza. When Naruto walked behind her, Urza turned her head and asked, Naruto, why are you here? I just left from Lucy, and I saw you when I passed by here. Naruto asked, what happened to you? Why are you here alone? I'm practicing and meditating. Urza couldn't help laughing when she heard the words. Why didn't Lucy come with you? She's going back. What an irresponsible guy. Today, I specifically allowed you to have a relationship, but it ended in such a short time. Lucy has just entered the guild, so she can chat with you the most. Why don't you talk to her more? How about for a while? Urza suddenly stood up and blamed. Ah. Naruto was stunned. What did Urza mean? Isn't she jealous? What a fool. Really, it seems that doing tasks together is the best way to connect with each other. Seeing Naruto's dazed look, Urza shook her head helplessly and smiled. Looking at her bright smile, Naruto couldn't help but feel the urge to slap Lucy on the head. This girl is really too sensitive, right? After what she told me, I really thought that Urza was jealous. It turns out that this girl, Lucy, is narcissistic. Sure enough, a girl like Urza is still very generous and gentle. In contrast, Lucy seemed a little too concerned. Or is she really too narcissistic? Naruto couldn't help thinking. Didn't you say you wanted to show me your latest armor? Naruto asked again, looking at the smile on her face. Elsa nodded. Yeah, I recently bought a new armor, and I wanted you to come and see it in the morning, but seeing that you and Lucy are already having breakfast, then I can only leave it for next time. Quote. When she was talking, Naruto carefully observed her expression, and she did not mean to be as jealous as Lucy thought. Urza is really sensible. That's it, then you can show me your clothes now. Naruto laughed, relieved for some reason. Ah, right now, Urza suddenly exclaimed when she heard that. Yu's face suddenly shivered. Yeah, it's not a big deal, right? Naruto wondered. Oh, that's fine, but this armor is a bit special. Don't have too many thoughts after reading it. Urza bit Kiba, as if she had made a big decision. Well, definitely not. Naruto nodded solemnly, but a trace of curiosity was aroused in his heart. What kind of armor is it? For a girl as beautiful as Urza, no matter what kind of clothes she wears, she won't feel ugly, right? Then I'm going to change. Elsa looked around and found that there was no one else on the edge of the small river beach. Her body flashed, and a puff of white smoke rose around her. Naruto looked carefully, a gust of wind blew, and the white smoke dissipated, revealing Urza's face full of shame and yuhi. This is... In an instant, Naruto was stunned by the so-called armor. I saw Elsa half-squatting on the ground, leaning on a long sword with a sheath in her hand. Her long scarlet yuhi hair was scattered behind her back, fluttering in the wind, while her body had most of her beautiful white skin exposed. The upper body was only covered with a white coat with an open back and a hanging chest, and 2 pairs of silver-colored handguards were wrapped around the slender and fair jade arms, but it showed a hint of heroism. On her head, she wore a white hat dressed as a maid, showing a 3-pointed soft and lovely color. The most important thing is that her lower body is almost only covered by a pair of yuhi-colored trousers that wraps around half of her buttocks. Her bulging buttocks make people feel the urge to spit blood, and her half squatting on her slender legs. She also wore a pair of black stockings, which made her look more mature and charming. To eat fruit, right? Naruto thought so. A heat flow has risen from his lower abdomen, and the heat flow turned into a power and suddenly rushed into his little brother. In an instant, stand tall. Naruto, this armor, how's it going? Urza asked her with her jade face sideways and Yuhi shy. Urza, the power of this armor is indeed very strong. Naruto bowed back slightly, trying his best to endure the burning fire in his heart. Really, I heard that this armor is very effective for men. Urza stood up, her slender legs shook slightly, and the blood in Naruto's body suddenly boiled. It's deadly. Urza actually wears such tempting clothes. This is simply subverting my own understanding. Really, I thought this armor wasn't very good. After all, I think this armor is more suitable for Lucy to wear. Urza smiled shyly. ... Naruto was speechless. If Lucy heard these words, I wonder how she would feel. Naruto, what's the matter with you? Are you uncomfortable? Suddenly, Urza saw Naruto as if she was trying to endure something. Her body was slightly bowed, her ass was raised. Asked. 692. Practicing. Urza doesn't seem to know how seductive she is to Naruto when she dresses like this. Maybe she knew it but did it on purpose. Anyway, Naruto now has the urge to pounce on her and crush her under him. But he soon remembered how angry she looked when he was just taking off her clothes when he was a child. If he really did that, he would probably be miserable, right? Hearing Urza's question, Naruto was very speechless. Urza was obviously ashamed of Yuhi, her eyes couldn't stop staring at the bulge in her, and she knew how to pretend to be pure. Alright, hurry up and put away this armor, let's practice other things. Naruto waved his hand and quickly asked her to take back this armor. Urza giggled, and then changed back again. But she looked at Naruto with a teasing look in her eyes. Naruto couldn't stand her gaze, so he quickly changed the subject. Urza, don't wear this armor for others to see. Why? I think the power of this armor is very strong. Even someone as strong as Naruto will be attacked. Elsa tilted her head and asked with a slight smile. Anyway, you can't dress like this and put on that pose for other men to see. Naruto was slightly embarrassed, and said angrily, I really hate girls who are so disrespectful, and I won't forgive them. You. So serious. Naruto, are you serious? Urza was taken aback by Naruto's serious expression and tone. I'm talking to you very seriously. Naruto stepped forward and pressed her shoulders, approaching her white and tender jade face. Her long red hair seemed to be full of fragrance, very good smell, a little intoxicating taste. Naruto took a deep breath and saw that Elsa's mouth suddenly showed a smile that was not a smile and said, I'm joking with you. I'm just more interested in wearing this kind of armor, of course I'm alone. When I was wearing it, I would never show it to others. Quote. When she said this, Elsa felt a little sweet in her heart. It seems that Naruto still cares about herself very much. Sure enough, a man's mind has to take some risks to test it before it can be revealed. I saw him and Lucy having breakfast earlier in the morning, talking and laughing. Although Urza didn't care much, she also felt uncomfortable. Now that Naruto cares so much about her clothes, she is overjoyed. Next, Naruto and Urza started the day's practice by the river. Just like before, the two practiced against each other. In the 6 years that Naruto was away, Urza couldn't find anyone who could practice with her, and now that Naruto's return, Urza couldn't help but think of the past. It's a familiar scene. Urza and Naruto stood opposite each other. She looked up at Naruto. The surrounding scene didn't seem to have changed. The bright and clean river, the ethereal Shirakumo, the blue sky, and the pair of clear water on the opposite side. Pupil. All this made her feel as if she had returned to her childhood. Thinking of this, Urza couldn't help showing a gentle smile on her face. Urza, it's still the same as before, I'll just stand here and attack as you like. Naruto said with his hands down by his side, without any gesture of fighting. But Urza's face was solemn. Naruto didn't seem to make any moves, but she could feel the pressure from him. No matter from which angle he attacked, the result would be the same, right? Urza recalled the scene where she could barely make 3 moves under his hands before, and her eyes could not help but become firm. Naruto, now I am not the little girl who just got into magic. This time, let me show you the results of my cultivation over the years. Thinking like this, Urza snorted softly, the armor of the sky wheel. Swish. A ray of light flashed from Urza's body, and then her armor changed. Silver-white metal decorated her body like feathers, and it looked like petals, showing her perfect figure. The smooth belly, the towering chest, and the smooth Yuhi hair that is loosely draped are as charming as an angel. This armor looks good. Naruto nodded in approval. Elsa smiled slightly. Then I'm going. Before she finished speaking, her slender beautiful legs kicked on the ground lightly, and her figure rushed over like a streamer. At the same time, several sharp long swords suddenly appeared behind her and in the surrounding air. Suspended around her, she flew towards Naruto as she rushed forward. Swish swish. Several long swords came to Naruto in an instant, aiming at almost all the vital parts of his body. But Naruto just smiled faintly, and his body didn't even move. Just when those long swords had just arrived in front of him, he saw his hands move slightly, and the next moment, a violent cold gushes out from him, and at the same time, several ice-made long swords instantly appeared in the air around his body. Ice-shape magic. Almost in an instant, Naruto made almost the same number of long swords as Urza in front of him. The next moment, the two slammed into each other, making countless crisp golden and iron symphony sounds. What a fast modeling speed! Urza exclaimed in surprise. She held a long sword in her hand, and when all the weapons on both sides fell to the ground, she jumped up and slashed directly at Naruto's chest. Naruto stood still, and without a weapon in his hand, he didn't bother to shape a long sword to fight her, so he just stretched out 2 fingers and pinched her blade. Stop! Urza was shocked, but Naruto didn't dodge or evade her attack, and only 2 fingers caught her attack. Immediately afterwards, Naruto flicked his fingers again, and there was a crisp clanging sound. In an instant, Urza's arm jerked violently, and a strong surge came, and she couldn't help but take a step back. What a powerful force! Urza glared at him. Naruto not only has such superb magical attainments, but his physical energy and speed are approaching the peak, yet he can't pose any threat to him. 693. Burst Mission. An hour later. Urza lay on the ground, gasping for breath, her face was covered in fragrant sweat, and her body was already soaked. During this hour, Urza continued to change clothes and launched a series of strong attacks on Naruto, while Naruto just defended and let her play. But no matter how hard Urza tried, Naruto still stood still, and until the battle was over, there was no sign of fatigue on his face. It's so strong. Urza looked up at Naruto, her heart full of powerlessness. Naruto's strength is really unfathomable. When he was a child, he was solved within 3 moves by him. Now, after struggling for an hour, he didn't even hurt his hair, the gap. It doesn't seem to be getting closer. Urza is very unwilling, she has already worked very hard. Why can't I get closer to him? It's unbelievable. If the president is here, who is stronger and who is weaker? Looking at Naruto's figure, Urza felt that she was so weak. Seeing her staring blankly at him, Naruto couldn't help but walk over and stretched out his hand to support her tender body, and came to the river to sit down and rest. Urza, your progress is indeed huge. In fact, you haven't shown your true strength just now, have you? Naruto laughed. Urza smiled bitterly. Naruto, don't make fun of me like this. In front of you, I feel like my strength is as weak as a child. How did you cultivate? What a monster. No wonder you can complete the 100-year mission. Quote. Naruto smiled lightly. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked not far away, and saw a figure running towards him quickly. It's Lucy. She came behind the two and saw Naruto and Urza sitting together. She couldn't help but froze for a moment, but then she said anxiously, Naruto, Urza, the president is angry. Huh, what's going on? Urza turned around and was slightly surprised. That's it, Natsu and hubby went to the second floor in the morning and stole an S-rank quest. Now they're gone, and the president is annoyed now. He asked you to go to the guild. After Naruto listened, he looked at Urza and smiled bitterly. It seems that there is something troublesome, and I won't be able to rest for the past 2 days. Urza frowned when she heard the words, and murmured, that guy Natsu is so messed up. It seems that the president wants you to bring him back. Next, the three came to the guild. Makarov was furious, and Mirage kept saying good things for Natsu, and many people around him were persuading him. After Naruto entered the guild, everyone couldn't help but look at him. Mirage came over and grabbed Naruto's arm and said, Naruto, you're finally here. Natsu got into trouble, and the guild leader plans to have him brought back for punishment. He is also a dragon slayer. Guide, now only you can bring him back. Naruto nodded, came to Makarov and said, Sir, I'll be responsible for bringing that guy back. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Makarov was originally very angry and worried. After all, he was a member of his own guild. He regarded it as his own child. If any of them died or something happened, he would feel heartache. This time, Natsu stole a mission that was not within his ability, and he would definitely encounter a very dangerous thing. So, he had already sent Ray to chase him before, but after thinking about it, he still felt that it would be better for Naruto to bring him back. After all, Naruto's strength is there. If he goes out, no matter what the task will be successfully completed. Naruto, I'll leave this to you. I believe your ability is absolutely fine, Makarov said. Naruto nodded. Leave it to me. After he agreed, Mirage introduced him to the mission that Natsu took over this time. It turned out to be going to a place called Alcatraz to investigate a supernatural thing. The villagers on this island will turn into demons at night for no reason. People who have been there are deeply afraid, so as time goes by, few people go to that place and gradually become isolated from the world. Naruto, this time it's hard for you to make a trip. I'll treat you well when you come back. Mirage smiled softly at him. Naruto was stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed. Then I'll be looking forward to it. I'll give you a surprise then. Mirage stood on tiptoe, put his soft lips to his ear, and whispered. Hey, Mila, what are you talking about? Seeing this, Urza jumped over and patted her head with her hand, and said coldly, you are not allowed to think about Naruto, you know. Ooh. Urza, you made Sister Mila cry. Lucy was startled. Seeing this, Naruto was very affectionate, and quickly stepped forward to help Mila wipe away her tears, softly persuading, Mila, Urza is joking. Don't worry, don't cry. How about I bring you a gift when I come back? When Mira heard this, she stopped crying, with tears still hanging on her face. Those beautiful big eyes looked at Naruto without blinking, and said with a slight joy, thank you then. You are so kind, Naruto. She looked at Naruto with a hint of obsession in her eyes, quietly tiptoed, and pressed her soft lips to his face. Wow, it's time to kiss. Someone around couldn't help screaming. Sister Mila, I support you. A little girl encouraged. Lucy stared at the two of them intently, with a tense expression on her face. Cough cough. At this moment, Urza, who was embarrassed and speechless, was suddenly caught between the two of them, separating Mirage from Naruto, then glared at Naruto with vicious eyes, and said, Naruto, you are not going. Bring Natsu back. It's too late if you don't chase. Naruto wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and quickly left the place of right and wrong. 694. Alcatraz. Naruto left the guild hall alone and went to this destination. Alcatraz. Natsu and Gray have been gone for most of the day, so they are probably already on the island, right? Devil Island, I have heard of it myself. To be honest, I want to see the situation there. Why do humans turn into devils? This kind of thing is really curious. However, when he arrived at the pier at the fastest speed, he tragically found that there was no ship willing to go to Alcatraz Island. And where Devil Island is located, Naruto only knows a general direction. Above the vast sea, how easy is it to find an island? Fortunately, Naruto still knew a little bit of demonic illusion. He cast demonic illusion on him while the boatman was not paying attention. Under Naruto's powerful mental power, demonic illusion worked instantly, and the boatman obeyed Naruto's orders obediently. Go in the direction of Alcatraz Island. In the deep blue sea, Naruto stood on the bow of the boat. The boatman said that it would take half a day to get there, and now that it was almost dusk, it seemed that it was night when we arrived there. The boat traveled for a while longer, and the sun set slowly from the sea level. At this moment, a large ship suddenly approached here not far away. This is it. The boatman was taken aback, and years of sailing experience told him, this is a pirate ship. Pirate ship. I didn't expect to meet a pirate at this time. Naruto couldn't help but smile, which is really rare. Just as he was talking, the pirate ship had quickly approached Naruto and the boatman. The huge pirate ship suddenly raised its sails painted with skull patterns. The broad deck, and the rows of magic cannons along the ship's edge looked amazing. The boatman shivered in fright. It's over, it's over. We were actually met by pirates, we are dead. The boatman shouted anxiously. At this moment, countless figures suddenly appeared on the pirate ship, with terrifying and weird smiles from their mouths, and they looked condescending and excited. A pirate. Naruto saw one of the men holding a sword and wearing a black blindfold. This should be the leader of the pirate, right? Naruto smiled indifferently. This is really regrettable. It should be a very tragic thing for them to meet Naruto, right? Listen to the people below. Hurry up and contribute your salutes. Otherwise, you will sink your ship. The pirate chief laughed. The rows of magic cannons on the ship were aimed at Naruto's boat. Wait, forgive me, uncles. The boatman was so frightened that he was about to urinate at this time, and he took out all the valuable things on his boat without saying a word. Very good. Where's the yellow-haired kid? After the leader sent someone to hook up the boatman's things with a rope, he pointed at Naruto with his slender sword and roared. Naruto smiled lightly. Do you really need my valuables? Bullshit. Hurry up and hand it over to me. Hand over. Hand over. The pirates shouted one after another. Their momentum was overwhelming, and the average person was really unable to resist. Even some ordinary magicians couldn't fight back at all. Under that row of magic cannons, who would dare to move? However, Naruto just stretched out one arm, his palm slightly spread upward, and a white sphere suddenly formed in the palm of his hand. There was an extremely strong cold air in the sphere, and then the energy sphere suddenly turned into a dazzling ice crystal, which looked like a diamond. What kind of treasure is this? The pirates couldn't help but stunned. Their bodies suddenly felt a chill surge up. Strange, why is it so cold? Is it going to rain? At this time, Naruto gently tossed the ice ball in his hand, and the ice ball fell to the deck in a beautiful arc in midair. When the pirate leader saw this, he could not help but frown slightly, and an unpleasant feeling emerged spontaneously. However, it was too late when he realized something was wrong. The ice ball thrown by Naruto, before the pirates had time to surround it, suddenly burst open. Just like a bomb, countless icy chills erupted from the sphere of ice, and in an instant this chill surrounded almost everyone on the deck. Ah, what is this? It's so cold. Quick, run away! Everyone exclaimed. However, after a second or two, the pirates on the ship all turned into ice sculptures and froze in place, unable to move. On the pirate ship, it became silent in an instant, and the only sound left by Naruto and the boatman was the hunting sound of the sea breeze blowing through the sails. "Master, why is it so cold all of a sudden?" the boatman couldn't help asking. "Then go back, thank you for your hard work," Naruto said to him, and after stuffing him a coin, he jumped directly from the boat and landed on the deck of the pirate ship. On the deck, a large group of people turned into ice sculptures, and the pirate captain shrank in the corner. His lips were blue from the cold, and he was shaking all over. Seeing Naruto's arrival, the pirate captain hurriedly backed away in fright, but was kicked out by Naruto, and then appeared beside him again in a flash, snatching what he had just taken from the boatman's hand. "Come back, throw it to the boatman and let him go." Then he kicked the frozen pirates into the sea one by one, leaving only the captain who could sail the boat. After finishing these things, the sky was completely dark, but the facilities on the pirate ship were very complete, and there were even bars and karaoke halls, but Naruto had no time to enjoy these, and ordered the pirate captain to sail the ship to after Alcatraz. I rested on the deck. The captain was forced and unable to resist, so he could only follow Naruto's request to go to Devil's Island. However, the speed of the pirate ship was still very good. After 2 or 3 hours, Naruto finally reached the shore of Alcatraz smoothly. He tied the pirate captain, threw it in the room, and got off the ship to Alcatraz. As soon as he looked up, he saw the purple moon in the sky. "It's really strange, the moon here is really purple. However, it seems that there is something familiar on this island." 695. Experiment. The island seemed to be very quiet. Naruto followed the map information Mira told him and walked towards the only village on the island. Soon, he arrived at the place where the village was located. The village built a tall fence, and there was a huge hanging door blocking the entrance and exit. There are also several sentry towers at the door, and there are people guarding them. When Naruto appeared at the door, the people in the tower shouted, "Stop, who are you?" Naruto raised his head, lifted his sleeves to reveal the seal of Fairy Tail on his arm, and said indifferently, "I am the Wizard of Fairy Tail, I am here to perform a mission." The Wizard of Fairy Tail. On a mission. "We have received 2 wizards just this afternoon. Are you their companion?" "Yes, one of them has black hair and one has pink hair," Naruto said. "Okay, then come in." The 2 quickly believed Naruto's words and let him enter the village by opening the hanging door. Although it was said that Naruto wanted to enter the village, a door could not stop him at all, but in any case, he was here to find someone, not to fight. After walking a few steps, the old village chief who heard the news came to Naruto, and there were several villagers. "Are you the Wizard of Fairy Tail? Are you the companion of those 2 boys?" asked the village chief. "Well, where are they now?" Naruto asked, nodding his head. "Oh, they are resting now, I will take you there to meet them." The village chief looked very happy, and another magician came, which means that the task will be completed. He was looking forward to it. In a shabby building, Naruto saw Gray and Natsu, who were eating something deliciously delicious. The arrival of Naruto could not help but slightly startle the 2 of them, and then their expressions changed drastically. "You guys are so intrigued. Gray, aren't you here to bring Natsu back?" Naruto smiled with a smile on the corner of his mouth. "Ah, Naruto, it's you." Gray looked stiff, a little flustered, then pouted and said, "I plan to complete the mission with Natsu." Natsu laughed and said, "Naruto, do you want to do missions with us too?" Naruto smiled lightly, "I'm here to take you back. Natsu, you violated the guild's rules, the old man is very angry, and the consequences are serious." "What? This is bad. Naruto has gone out in person, and we have no chance of winning." The kitten next to Natsu sighed. I won't go back anyway. This is my first S-rank mission, how could I give up so easily?" Natsu exclaimed confidently, "And the villagers are waiting for us to clear their troubles. We can't leave even more." Gray glanced at Natsu, and his stance was unanimous. "I also decided to stay. This means, let Naruto look at it." These two messed up guys are not strong, but they like challenges so much. If they accidentally die, it will be very tragic. I think it's better to take you back. This place is not suitable for you. Naruto said, the task of S rank is still too early for you. If you want to do it next time, let your strength reach S rank as soon as possible. Quote. He said this mercilessly, and both Natsu and Gray were hit, but they became more stubborn. Natsu shouted, what is an S-class mission? I can definitely knock it away. I'll freeze it, Gray said coldly. Quote. Naruto, two ignorant guys. Anyway, we won't go back. Unless you defeat us. Natsu jumped up and shouted, as long as you defeat us, we will go back. Hey, Natsu, don't talk nonsense. Naruto's strength is easy to defeat us. Gray reminded him. Natsu laughed. I have improved a lot now. I will never be afraid of him. Really? When Naruto heard the words, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The next moment, before Natsu's laughter fell, Naruto's figure appeared behind him, and at the same time his palm also patted to Natsu's back. In an instant, Natsu's body shook violently, and a cold air penetrated into Naruto's body from the palm of his hand. Almost in an instant, Natsu's body was frozen into a popsicle. Natsu! Gray yelled anxiously when he saw the frozen Natsu. At this time, Naruto's figure flashed and came to Gray again, and patted his body with his palm. Ice is useless to me. Gray snorted coldly, and a burst of ice magic was released from his palm, which instantly hit Naruto's palm. Snapped. The palms of the two met, and the next moment, Gray screamed, and a flame emerged from Naruto's palm, and suddenly got into Gray's body, and his whole body flew out. He fell to the ground with a bang, and Gray was charred all over, looking at Naruto in disbelief. You actually know fire magic. The shock in his heart couldn't be further increased, and what was even more unacceptable was that Naruto's flame temperature was only stronger than Natsu's. So much so that his ice attribute body couldn't resist and fell to the ground. Naruto smiled slightly. Now that I have defeated you, can you go back with me? Gray was speechless, looked at Natsu helplessly, pouted and said, I didn't say that. Is Natsu talking too much? Do you still want to cheat? Naruto was stunned, waved his hand, and lifted the ice cube off Natsu's body, and he was shivering from the cold. Damn it, let's fight again. Natsu slowed down, and flames emerged from his body to rush up. He is not willing to be defeated so quickly. Natsu, can't beat. Naruto is too strong. I think we should go back. Kiba, who was frightened by the sight, trembled. Gray stood up with difficulty. Seeing that they were stalking like undead Xiaoqiang, Naruto was also helpless, so he could only say, for the sake of you wanting to stay so much, I will allow you to stay, and speaking of this mission, I intend to take over and complete it. It's not impossible if you join, but you have to obey my orders, you know. Quote. Hubby exclaimed. Both Gray and Natsu were stunned, and immediately laughed. No problem. Okay, since that's the case, let's go to other places on the island to investigate now. It's not too late, it's better to complete this task as soon as possible. Naruto said lightly. Then let's go now. Natsu smiled excitedly. So, the three of them spoke to the village chief and left the village to investigate elsewhere. Hey, Naruto, how strong is your strength? Your ice magic is even stronger than Gray. Along the way, Natsu asked curiously, and I heard that you and Gray used to. Is it a brother? Gray pouted. Naruto nodded and said, it's true. But you can still use fire magic. This surprises me even more. That's right, let me take a bite of your magic. I really want to try it. Natsu shouted. Naruto turned his head. Do you really want to eat my magic? Yeah, I like eating fire the most. Natsu laughed. Well, I also happen to have an experiment for you to do. Naruto suddenly showed a radian at the corner of his mouth. Natsu couldn't help but feel a chill. Experimenting. 696. New discovery. Catch it well. A fire Yuhi suddenly rose out of nowhere in Naruto's palm, and the flame jumped violently. Although it was only a small stream, the temperature that came out made people feel as hot as a sea of fire. "Oh, that looks really good," Natsu exclaimed excitedly. "Hey, be careful, this flame doesn't feel normal," Gray reminded. "Haha, how can there be fire that I can't eat in this world?" "Gray, are you joking?" Natsu laughed. He leaned over to Naruto's palm, opened his mouth and bit the flame in Naruto's palm. "Eat it in one bite." Naruto looked at him carefully. The brows on Natsu's face suddenly tangled together, and a look of pain appeared on his face. "Ah!" He suddenly screamed in pain as he grabbed his throat. "What's wrong with you, Natsu? What's wrong with you?" Gray couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this, and quickly supported his body and asked with concern. Naruto smiled lightly. "It seems that my experiment was successful." "What the hell did you do?" Gray yelled at Naruto. "Don't worry, he's fine, I can't eat my flames." Naruto waved his hand, motioning him to be quiet. The one roared a few times and took a few breaths before slowly recovering. After calming down, he couldn't help but look incredulous and asked, "Naruto, what the hell is going on? How could I not be able to eat your flames?" Naruto shook his head. "Because my fire magic is at the same level as yours, and our attribute level is the same. So your flametivaring ability cannot pose a threat to me. On the contrary, because my magic power is higher than because of your strength, my flames will hurt you after entering your body. So that's how it is. I'm a fire-type dragon slayer. Could it be that your fire-type magic is also from the fire dragon cult?" "Although I'm not from the fire dragon cult, my nature is similar, and it belongs to the use of natural magic," Naruto explained. Natural magic. Natsu was stunned when he heard this word for the first time. Seeing his puzzled look, Naruto didn't bother to explain anymore. Anyway, no matter how much he explained, it would be of no use to him. He had already learned from the fire dragon how to control the natural magic power of the fire element. "And," Naruto said, "Okay, let's go to the island to investigate now." "Oh, that's what I said. Then let's go quickly." Natsu got excited again and ran ahead. After a while, the three came to a huge temple. "Wow, there is actually a temple here." Both Natsu and Gray looked surprised. Naruto also felt a little surprised. He didn't expect such a huge temple to exist on this desolate island. Moreover, the most important thing was that the familiar power came from the temple. "Let's go in and see." Naruto waved his arm and took the lead in walking in. The temple is very empty, and no one seems to live in it. It seems that this is an abandoned temple. Although it is large, it looks lifeless. Suddenly, Naruto's ears moved, and a strange sound came from not far away. Natsu heard it too and couldn't help but look at Naruto. "Naruto, there seems to be someone there." As soon as the voice fell, he rushed over with Naruto. Gray was stunned for a moment, and quickly caught up. Coming from the hall of the temple to the backyard, there is a group of people wearing robes, the whole being covered by robes. They are standing there in a circle and praying, muttering something in their mouths. It seems very pious look. "Hey, who are you?" Natsu asked loudly. His voice suddenly awakened the group of people who were praying, and they couldn't help but panic and riot, looking at the three of Naruto as if they were facing a great enemy. "I'm asking you guys." Natsu stepped forward, only to see the group of people suddenly scattered and fled. "What inexplicable guys," Natsu muttered. At this time, Naruto came to the place where they prayed just now, and saw that there was a circular passage here, and the passage seemed to lead to the underground. And that familiar magic power came from below. There seems to be something down here. Natsu also noticed the strangeness at a glance, and said excitedly, "Are we getting close to the truth?" In the underground passage, Naruto, Natsu, and Gray are quietly moving forward. "I didn't expect that there is such a place under the ground of this temple. It's really exciting. Is there a treasure hidden here?" Natsu laughed. However, Naruto frowned slightly, because the power he felt was getting closer and closer, almost in front of him, and this power was very familiar. This is the power of Ulu. When the three of them turned a corner, what appeared in front of them was a huge cave, and a huge ice sculpture with a height of dozens of meters stood there. Legend has it that it was a demon created by Jarev. It is also the monster that was sealed by Ulu with the loss of half his life. Gray was stunned when he saw Daliola. How is this possible? Why is he here? Gray's face was full of disbelief, with deep shock on his face, and he couldn't help thinking of what happened 8 years ago. He looked at Naruto, suddenly grabbed his clothes and asked loudly, "What the hell is going on? Why is this guy here? Don't you know the truth? What the hell?" Naruto frowned, pulled Gray's hand away and said, "I don't know about that, but I'm pretty sure that Daliola was placed in the north at the time, and now it's here. It must have been brought here by humans. Right. Damn, who the hell did this?" Gray couldn't help clenching his fists tightly, with a look of anger on his face. "You must know that this is a monster that Ulu almost sealed with his own life, but now someone has gotten it here. No matter what the intention is, he has to check it out." 697. Brothers Meet. At this moment, a few voices of discussion suddenly came from behind the three of Naruto. Naruto quickly grabbed the two of them and flashed to the side, holding his breath. 4 figures walked in. That is Leon. Naruto saw the leader at first glance, with white hair, hanging eyes, and a cold expression on his face. Didn't expect him to be there. Gray was stunned for a moment after seeing it, and seemed to have recognized it. The sound of their conversation came. There seemed to be someone's voice here just now. The man with his hands behind his back and his thick eyebrows said vigilantly. "Why didn't I hear it? Did you hear it wrong?" "You," said the dog-like looking guy. "Don't be surprised, the two of you. No one will come in here. Besides, our plan is about to be completed. How can we be disturbed at this time?" The girl with light makeup spoke up. Leon came to Daliola, looked up at the huge ice sculpture. A kind of madness gradually appeared in his eyes, and muttered to himself, "I must defeat you with my own hands. Ulu, I will use this prove better than you." The 4 of them stayed here for a while longer, said something like a drop of the moon, and then left quickly. At this time, Naruto and the others jumped out. Gray opened his mouth, and just as he was about to say something, Naruto waved his hand to stop him. "Leon is trying to melt this layer of ice with the droplets of the moon and release Daliola," he said. Gray and Natsu were both startled. Naruto explained, "Moon drops, the brilliance of the moon collected through special rituals, can eliminate any magic. Leon is collecting moon drops. I think that's the only use." "Damn, I'll stop him," Gray roared, about to rush out. But he was quickly pulled by Naruto. "Don't worry, even if Daliola is resurrected, it doesn't matter. How about we wait for him to be resurrected?" Naruto suddenly suggested. "What? Naruto, are you crazy?" Gray couldn't believe it. "Don't you know how scary Dalio is? How can you think like that?" Natsu said excitedly. "Haha, I agree with Naruto's proposal. It's burning." "You too." Gray sighed helplessly. All right, even Daliola has nothing to be afraid of. With our current strength, we can definitely deal with him. Don't you even have such confidence?" Natsu hooked his shoulders, laughed. "No, you don't know the horror of Daliola." Gray looked up at Naruto. "You should know how powerful he is. Why did you make such a stupid decision?" Naruto smiled slightly. "It seems that things from your childhood have cast too many shadows on you. We are all grown up now. Even Daliola doesn't pose any threat to us. Yeah, Naruto and I are Dragon Slayer wizards. And Naruto is a guy who has completed a mission for 100 years. Natsu also shouted. After listening to the words of the two, Gray calmed down a little, and then he raised his head and asked Naruto, "You should tell me about that now, right?" Naruto was stunned. "Are you talking about Ulu's whereabouts?" Gray nodded, and there was a glimmer of expectation in his eyes. Ulu was his mentor and someone he admired. When he heard the news that Naruto was still alive, he was finally relieved, but he also wanted to meet him very much over the years. See her. But Naruto was reluctant to tell him about Ulu's whereabouts. At this moment, he finally couldn't help but ask. Okay, after this period of time, I'll take you to see her. Naruto nodded. Gray did something wrong on impulse when he was a child. Naruto was originally very angry, but after so many years, I have long forgotten that unpleasantness. When Gray heard this, he was immediately excited. Okay, let's go back first, and wait for them to resurrect Daliola. Naruto waved his hand and ordered the two to follow him back. On the way back, Naruto was also thinking, if Leon's guys really want to resurrect Dalio, what is his purpose? After all, it was a demon created by Jareth, the culprit who brought countless disasters to people. If Leon wants to use it to do something wicked, his fellow student must clear the door for Ulu. And at this moment, in an unknown corner, a figure was muttering to himself, I didn't expect Naruto Uzumaki to be mixed in this time, so it seems that I really don't want to show up at will. After all, his strength is not so easy to deal with. The three Naruto returned to the village, and they rested until the second Tenten woke up. At this time, everyone in the village looked normal, and no one turned into a demon. However, Naruto seemed to sense something was wrong. The aura on these people is obviously different from the humans outside. Are you being overly concerned? Mind-blowing thought. After breakfast, the three of Naruto went out to investigate again. The village chief had urged them strongly in the morning. If this matter was not resolved, he would make a big noise again. The three wandered around the island and did not enter the temple until the moon rose at night. The existence of this temple, after asking the villagers before, learned that although they knew of its existence, they could not enter it, so the temple became a forbidden place for the villagers over time. At this time, in this forbidden area, a group of people are gathered around to carry out the ceremony. Tonight seems to be the time when the moon droplets are about to be collected, and the underground Daliola will soon be resurrected. Naruto entered the temple with Natsu and Gray. But he found that Leon was sitting quietly on the high seat of the temple at this time, and there were several subordinates standing beside him, and it seemed that he was the only one to follow. Emperor Ling, someone is here. Shui Li said aloud. Lion, long time no see. As Shirley's voice fell, Naruto's voice rang out. He also appeared in the hall with Natsu and Gray, and looked at them lightly. 698. Resurrection. Following Naruto's voice, Natsu and Gray also waved to them. Gray called him, Leon. Why are you here? Where have you been all these years? Humph. It turned out to be you. Leon also fell into a moment of surprise. He didn't expect to meet his former senior brothers, Naruto and Gray. Leon, why are you doing this? Gray asked loudly. Leon's face suddenly flashed a ferocious look, and suddenly he said angrily, do you still have a face to show up in front of me? I am different from you. I want to surpass the existence of Ulu. I want to resurrect Daliola. Sure enough, we guessed right, you really want to do this. Gray murmured. What? Did you make the previous movement? Leon said lightly. You guys are here, aren't you trying to stop me? Naruto waved his hand, and suddenly smiled faintly. You misunderstood, we don't want to stop you. We are just here to do a mission. It's really an accident to see you. Oh, that would be the best. Leon nodded. Gray wanted to go up and say a few more words when he saw his former senior brother, but Leon looked indifferent and ignored him at all. Gray opened his mouth, and finally stopped talking. He also understood that it seemed that Leon had been brooding about that incident. However, according to Mingren, Ulu is not dead. Do you want to tell him? Just when he was going to tell Leon the news, there was a sudden sound of shaking from the ground. The people present were startled. Earth, the ground is shaking, cried the kobold. Looks like the ice is melting, Yuka murmured. Leon quickly waved his hand and led them to the ground. The three Naruto quickly followed. When everyone rushed to the ground, Daliola, who was originally sealed by ice, had really broken out, and he, who who was full of magic power, was destroying everything underground. Boom boom boom. Almost all the underground passages were destroyed, and the gravel flew around, almost burying everyone alive. Sure enough. Is this Daliola? Leon exclaimed excitedly. He risked danger and rushed up suddenly, waved his hand at Daliola sharply, and sent out an ice magic. Ice bird. A huge ice bird spun quickly and slammed into Dalio. With a bang, Dalio was hit instantly, but there was no scar on his body, and it was ineffective. On the contrary, because of Leon's attack, he became even more violent, and an extremely strong magic beam was sprayed towards them. Be careful, Gray yelled, seeing that the strong light had already slammed into Leon and the others, sending out a strong explosion. Naruto stood there and watched Daliola destroy everywhere, attacking Leon and others fiercely. Seeing how they fought hard, he already had an idea in his heart. It seems that Daliola's power has not been affected after 8 years. It was frozen for so long and should have died a long time ago. It seems that this magic of Ulu has produced some because of his own participation. The change has caused it to lose its original effect. Even if the moon drop is not used, I am afraid that the ice block will not last long. Lord Zero Emperor, this monster is so strong. We can't stand it anymore. Shui Li exclaimed, dodging Daliola's indiscriminate attack, and the surrounding gravel almost broke her newly bought skirt. Mighty Daliola, I must defeat you. Leon had already fallen into madness at this time, and he shouted, you all don't shoot. I want to deal with him alone. No way, this guy is too strong. Let's go back to the ground first, right? Gray ran over to persuade. Go away, what do you know? It's enough here, I'll be able to clean him up. A kid like you who doesn't know anything, leave me alone. Leon pushed Gray fiercely. He threw him out and shouted. At this moment, Naruto suddenly noticed a strong wave of magic power, followed by a roaring sound above his head, and then the rocks above the entire underground passage all collapsed, and a large piece of rock fell down. Smashed. Ah, this is going to collapse. We have to go up. The kobold screamed, and Shirley and Yuka also shouted at Leon from behind. Leon was helpless, so he had to give up and continue to entangle with Daliola, ready to go to the ground to solve this guy. However, when everyone wanted to find the passage again, they found that the original road back was blocked by rocks. In other words, everyone is trapped underground. Oops, we're stuck, Gray yelled. Even if it is the destruction of Daliola, this rock cave will not collapse so easily. Naruto frowned slightly. He knew that this was definitely not the damage caused by Daliola. It seemed to be because of a magic power that came from the temple above. Is there still such a guy here? Naruto was slightly puzzled. At this moment, the rock above the head was about to suppress all the people. After a few loud bangs, the smoke and dust filled the air, and the cave fell into darkness. Were we buried alive? After a while, a faint voice came. It was Shirley. She seemed to be in pain. Cough cough. Shirley, what's wrong with you? The kobold's voice asked. Me, my leg is crushed. It hurts. Shirley's voice was about to cry. Leon and Yuka were also slightly surprised. It was dark all around, and everyone seemed to be trapped together. At this time, a flame emerged from Natsu's hand, and the light illuminated the surroundings. I saw that in the small space, all 7 people were trapped in it. The worst thing was that one of Shui Li's thighs was actually hit by a rock. At this time, blood flowed and almost soaked her entire black socks. Her face was covered in cold sweat and she panicked. Am I going to die here? No, I don't want it. At this moment, Naruto walked over quickly, came to her and said, I may be able to help you. 699. Time Magic. Before she finished speaking, Naruto stretched out his palm and placed it lightly on top of her thigh, and then a green light flashed. Shui Li couldn't help but froze for a while, watching Naruto open his mouth, just as he was about to say something, but was already stunned by the scene on his leg, only to see that the wound that was bleeding profusely was smoldering under the green light. A speed that is visible to the naked eye is healing, itching, and within a few minutes, the wound on the leg has returned to its original state. It's just a bit of flesh that was cut by a sharp stone. Although there will be a lot of blood if you don't deal with it, but now it's fine. Naruto treated her with medical techniques, stood up and smiled. Now let's get out of here. Shui Li stared blankly at Naruto's face, but she was in a trance. It wasn't until Naruto finished speaking that she realized that she had been saved by him, and quickly stood up and thank you. Naruto shook his head and said no. At this time, the kobold screamed, "How should we go out? Otherwise, we will starve to death." "Leave it to me," Naruto said again. Naruto, do you have a way to get out?" Natsu said with a smile. "I wanted to force it out." "Idiot, we will definitely be killed by you if we do this," Gray cursed. "Okay, it's time to get rid of Dalio, let's go out quickly. Follow me." Naruto waved his hand, and the rock in front of him suddenly separated to both sides, forming a square rock passage leading all the way up. Earth magic. Gray and Natsu couldn't help shaking their bodies. After seeing his ice magic and fire magic, another earth magic came. How much magic does this guy know? Is he omnipotent? How is this possible? However, before they could be surprised, Naruto took the lead and rushed up the passage. Leon followed closely behind. After a while, the group finally got out of the ground. And when they reached the ground, they discovered that the entire temple had collapsed for some reason, and there was ruins, broken walls, and a depressing scene. Everyone was astonished. At this time, a huge figure not far ahead was wreaking havoc there. It was Daliola. This guy has also crawled out of the ground long ago. He seemed very excited when he just broke the seal, and he looked like he was going to destroy everything around him. When Leon saw him, he rushed up and fought with him. His goal is to defeat Daliola so he can surpass Ulu. Thinking that Ulu is dead, he can only use this method to continue his original goal. However, I don't know what went wrong. Daliola's power did not decrease after being frozen, but became stronger after 8 years of precipitation. As soon as Leon rushed up, he was smashed back by the opponent. He fell to the ground, the clothes on his body had become tattered, his face full of disbelief. "Impossible, I have already surpassed Ulu. I will definitely defeat you." Leon couldn't believe it, and roared wildly in his mouth. "Leon, let me deal with this guy." At this time, Gray also suddenly rushed up, stopped in front of Leon, and blocked a magic beam of Daliola for him. "Let's go too." Yuka and the kobold looked at each other and rushed towards Daliola. Because Shui Li had bled too much just now, she didn't have the strength to participate in the battle, so she could only stay on the sidelines and watch. Naruto saw that everyone was rushing to deal with Daliola, but his mind was not on this, because he had clearly sensed the remnants of magic power from the air just now. Glancing at Daliola, Naruto said to Natsu, "I'll leave it to you and Gray, I'll come when I go." With a flash of his body, he disappeared in front of everyone in an instant. On the island, a short figure was galloping in the woods, with a strange mask on his face, and his figure looked like an odd old man. "It's really bad. I didn't expect that guy's insight to be so sharp. I've been so careful, and he would still find out. Damn." His voice was slightly anxious, and the speed under his feet became faster and faster. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in front of him, and it was the figure of Naruto. "What? So fast?" He was subconsciously startled, and quickly stepped back. "Who are you?" After Naruto finally caught up with this guy at the fastest speed, he couldn't help but speak coldly. This guy is really insidious enough. While he and others were not paying attention, he directly collapsed the entire temple and the rocks below, and almost buried everyone alive. The means are despicable, and he is definitely not a good person. He, that's really good. Fairy Tail's youngest S-rank mage. Those who have completed a 100-year mission are truly extraordinary. After he was shocked, he suddenly laughed. Naruto frowned. "It seems that you know my information very well." What is your purpose? He just laughed a few times, and suddenly he pointed. A big tree next to Naruto suddenly broke, and fell towards Naruto with a bang. Naruto was slightly surprised. What kind of magic is this? However, before he had time to think about it, his figure flashed, quickly dodging the collapsed tree. As soon as he stood still, a rock in front of him suddenly burst open and flew towards his head. Naruto tilted his head slightly again and quickly flashed towards the opponent. The speed is really fast. Then try this trick. The masked figure suddenly threw a glass bead out of his hand and shot towards Naruto. Just as Naruto was about to dodge, he found that the glass bead actually stopped halfway, squinted his eyes slightly. He was about to take a closer look, but the bead seemed to be controlled by someone, and streaked a circle in the air. The arc flew towards Naruto again. Naruto waved his arm, and a Jinten particle-style ball of light flew towards the glass beads. With a bang, the glass beads were instantly hit and turned invisible. However, in the next moment, countless glass crystals suddenly appeared in front of Naruto again, and at the moment when Naruto was stunned, these glass balls gathered towards Naruto at an unresponsive speed. This magic is really strange. Not only is it elusive, it's also impossible to find at all. With a loud explosion, Naruto's place was immediately enveloped by the explosion of the countless crystal balls bombarded together. Hee, fairy tale's genius is nothing more than that. The masked figure laughed. However, at the next moment, his figure suddenly shone slightly. Naruto appeared behind him, holding an ice blade in his hand, and a slashed crack appeared on his body. Hiraishin, S/. The speed is so fast that it is almost teleportation. The speed that ordinary people can't avoid at all. In one move, the masked figure will be instantly killed. Ah, this is... His voice was incredulous, and then his body slowly fell down. Naruto suddenly saw a long black hair from behind him, and when he stretched out his arms, just as he was about to grab his body, he found that the guy's body was slowly disappearing and gradually becoming transparent. Missing body. Naruto was slightly surprised. This guy is really cautious enough to act with the missing body. No wonder you can't feel the physical appearance when you cut it. Who the hell is this guy? Naruto fell into deep thought. 700. Ice Dragon Slayer Magic. On a certain ship outside Alcatraz Island, a beautiful figure was wiping the cold sweat from his head. He has long black hair and a delicate face. He is 17 or 18 years old, with light makeup on his face, and his body is bumpy and sexy. At this moment, she was frowning and murmured with lingering fears, "It's a terrifying existence. If it wasn't for the entanglement of the missing body in advance, I'm afraid the body here will be discovered. It is too strong." The missing body, which has condensed half of its own spiritual power, was actually killed in seconds. This guy is indeed a disciple of Ulu, as expected of a person who has completed a 100-year mission. Naruto returned to the place where the temple was located with doubts. Only then did I find that everyone, including Natsu and Gray, was knocked to the ground by Dalio. The arrogance on Leon's face has disappeared at this time. He used to be so sure that he can defeat this monster, but it is only now that he realizes that compared with Ulu, he is too far behind. Gray and Natsu are similar in strength to Leon, but gathering all their strength can only withstand Daliola. But under Daliola's full force attack, all three of them fell at his feet. Yuka and the kobold had no courage at all, and were directly shocked by Daliola's aura. Shirley was trembling all over, and she was bleeding so much that she couldn't even stand up. Damn, why is this guy so strong? Leon roared unwillingly. He has been cultivating so hard, he thinks he can surpass Ulu, but why has it become like this now? I will never believe it. I will definitely surpass you. Ulu. Leon suddenly shouted loudly, then suddenly stood up and rushed in front of Daliola, his arms stretched forward and crossed. What is that action? Gray was lying on the ground at this time, and when he saw Leon's action, he was instantly shocked, and he rushed up with some strength, grabbing in front of him and posing the same posture. Absolutely freezing. You idiot, what are you doing? Don't block me. Leon was also shocked. At this time, Naruto unfolded his wings of wind and saw this scene in midair. What two impulsive little devils. Naruto sighed helplessly. These two guys, it looks like they haven't grown up at all, which is really worrying. You two, stop me. Naruto descended from the sky, stood in front of them in the sky, looked down at them, and said lightly. Naruto, aren't you chasing other people? Gray was taken aback. Wind magic, Leon exclaimed in surprise when he saw the wings of wind behind Naruto. Okay, let's step back. Daliola's strength is stronger than before, you can't deal with it now. Are you going to deal with him alone? Leon exclaimed in disbelief, how is this possible? Are you not much better than us? Just when he was about to rush up again, Gray suddenly grabbed him and shook his head. Leon, stop, since Naruto said so, let's watch from the side. What? Gray, you actually said such depressing words. Leon couldn't believe it. Although Gray didn't like to talk in the past, he still had the same arrogance as himself and never succumbed to others, but now he admits that his strength is not as good as others. Okay, it seems that you still don't understand Naruto's strength. He is an S-rank mage of our union, and he is the only guy who has completed the mission for 100 years. What? Leon was shocked when he heard the words, including Yuka, Kobold and Shirley, all of them were shocked by the news. Although they don't know what the concept of an S-rank wizard in the guild is, they are probably very powerful, but they have heard of the 100-year mission. It is a mission that no one has completed in 100 years, and it was actually given by him. Finished. In contrast, the Daliola in front of me is probably not even a 10-year mission, right? Is it true? Leon asked in disbelief. Just watch. Gray pulled him aside. Natsu also stood up, looking eager to try. Natsu, do you want to go too? Gray glanced at him. Nonsense. I haven't given up yet. Natsu charged towards Daliola with flames all over his body. Gray shook his head. Before Natsu could get close to Dalio's huge arm suddenly waved, and a layer of rock was lifted up on the ground, and Natsu was directly blasted back by this powerful force. Damn! Natsu wanted to rush up again, but saw Naruto suddenly make a few strange handprints on his hands. Then, the small space where Daliola and him were suddenly shrouded in a square barrier. It's actually an enchantment. Does he want to get rid of Daliola in the enchantment? Leon exclaimed. Inside the barrier, Naruto stood in front of Daliola in the sky, met his gaze, and said lightly, Daliola, Ulu and I didn't have the strength to defeat you at the time, so we could only defeat you. Seal, this time, I will directly destroy you. Daliola seemed to understand Naruto's words, and suddenly the roar shook the sky, and angrily waved his arms at Naruto. Bursts of magic flashes appeared on his fist, almost covering Naruto's path. However, Naruto's speed is no longer comparable to the current Daliola. Although his attack is extremely fast, it is still not worth mentioning in Naruto's eyes. He has avoided him as long as he dodges a little. All offense. Immediately afterwards, Naruto looked at Daliola and smiled suddenly. I had a way to get rid of you in an instant. But now that I think about it, I'd better use ice magic to deal with you. As soon as the words fell, Naruto's body suddenly burst out with an extremely strong chill. The cold air rose up, and it was like a flame wrapped around him. What a strong ice magic power! Gray and Leon couldn't help but be startled. Even with the barrier, they still felt the chill on Naruto's body inside the barrier. On Daliola's body, layers of ice chips had already appeared at this time, and it was just because of the cold air that Daliola's body began to freeze. At this time, Daliola was probably also shocked by this cold air. He roared wildly, shattering all the ice chips on his body, and then waved his hands and grabbed it towards Naruto. Naruto stood motionless in the air, allowing Daliola's huge palm to grab onto him. But just when the palm was about to touch Naruto's body, the cold air in Naruto's ears suddenly surged again. Immediately afterwards, his body rushed out, his arms met Daliola's palm, and he punched. Ice Dragons Boxing. Boom. A layer of powerful icy air burst out in the barrier, and Daliola's palm was instantly frozen into ice by this cold air, and he kept freezing most of his chest along his arm. At the same time, Daliola was also knocked backward by this huge impact. After stepping back a few steps, he sat on the ground with a bang, and the whole ground was shaken. It's just that Naruto's attack has not been completed. After he punched, he looked at Daliola, who fell to the ground, and suddenly snorted, and suddenly exhaled an extremely strong icy breath from his mouth. The ice dragons. Roar.